Hi Astronauts, this is Brandy and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. If you are new to my channel, as I said, hi, I'm Brandy. I like to combine tarot and astrology to give beautiful predictions. So today's reading is the monthly reading. We're doing the monthly 2025 August tarot scopes, whatever you would like to call them. So I prefer to go into a good amount of detail and layers to give you astronauts some clear scenarios as to how August 2025 will lay out. Now, before we get started, I do want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. Got to do the YouTuber thing. And don't forget, if you would like a private reading from me, all you have to do is click underneath that description bar. The form may be open for now. Depends on when I post this video. It may be around July 24th that I post this or something along the lines of that. But the form will be open either the next week or maybe I open it a little bit early. So check that description bar below. Fill out that form if you want a private reading. And I also do horoscopes. So if you want that, go ahead. That's actually one of my popular readings, or I should say packages. So let us jump into these piles. I don't have any announcements, so let's just get straight into this. We have pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3, pile number 4, and pile number 5. I do want some new trinkets, so you astronauts, give me some ideas of what trinkets you would like to see. I have my little fishes here, but you know, I would really love your insights. Now, after all that, just sit back, relax, and choose. Hey, pile number 1, let's get started on your August 2025. We have the Page of Swords for where you are and just like a general vibe you may be going into for this month. We have the Ten of Pentacles for finances, not bad. We have the Master of Clouds, intellect for your career. We have the Five of Raindrops, loss for love. And we have the Star for an overall vibe for this month. And we have our Nakshatra card, Jesta. Okay. And also, let's get into our Ashenites, because you know I like to lead with that. Woo! This one fell off the table. Let's try that one again. All right. So we have the 12th house, moon in Capricorn. Ooh, 12th house, moon in Capricorn. It seems like this is a time for reflection. 12th house is all about pause. It's all about thinking about your next move, where you want to go, future planning, as well as the house of self-undoing. So it becomes about awareness, like emotional awareness, you know, things having to do with why do you think this way? Why do you feel this way? Why are you acting this way? Where does this come from? Whose voice is in your head? Like if you criticize yourself or celebrate yourself, either one. Doesn't have to be particularly negative. But generally, it's about having a deep understanding of who you are. And because it's in the sign of Capricorn, to me, it feels as if you're focusing more so on maybe even your purpose within the world, like who you are and what you are trying to achieve, or how you're trying to make your standing in the world. Is that the word I want to use? How you create your sense of legacy, because Capricorn has to do with that, how you are perceived in the world versus maybe even how you perceive yourself, or maybe even how you want to be perceived. There's just a lot of self-reflection when it comes to the 12th house. This is not to say the 12th house is a completely silent house. In fact, the 12th house can be quite chaotic, very busy. It is the house of basically the wild, wild west. You know, it's like this unknown territory that we haven't explored. It represents outer space. And you guys, there's, I think, millions of galaxies, and we're just in one of them. Imagine like a million different Earths out there, and those are just the ones we can see. Basically, what I'm trying to get at here is that it's an area having to do with the unknown. So there is a lot of learning more about yourself and a lot of experiencing situations that you may not have experienced before, particularly in areas that may have to do with achievement, may have to do with recognition, titles. Titles could be like, hey, I'm a mom, you know, like, but then maybe you become a soccer mom, or maybe you become a mom to a child that needs special care, right? So it's like a title change, you know, so things along the lines of that. So there is a lot of that going on. The 12th house can be quite unpredictable. So there is a lot of unpredictability happenings within the month of August. I was going to say July, but within the month of August, there is a lot of unpredictability happening. And with this moon card here, I do like to see it because the moon is pretty good about navigating the unknown. It has to do with following your intuition, being more so inclined to the spiritual and esoteric, allowing yourself to be in touch with your true feelings and your emotions. And so there may be a lot of that going on. This can also represent, if you're just talking about events like separation from the mother, separation from the homeland. That is something that can go on when it comes to the 12th house and things happening, or even just feeling a little bit emotionally absent, because the moon can represent your emotions. And generally when you have moon in the 12th house, it's like the person's emotions are hidden, meaning maybe the most vulnerable parts of themselves are not being revealed. So you may be a little bit emotionally, wouldn't say closed off, but just more removed. Like it's a little bit harder for people to read you this month, or maybe even fully engage with you, because you're in this place of just like, I need time for myself. So keep that in mind for the month of August. That can be going on. And this can also just represent a lot of traveling. I feel like I say traveling a lot with these readings, but there is signs of that when you have the moon, the house of home, in the 12th house. And then Capricorn, which is a planet that represents a little bit more of a distance because it's ruled by Saturn. And Saturn likes to keep its distance. It's got its little rings around it for protection. Surrounded by a bunch of moons, the most moons of any planet. So keep that in mind when we are talking about just actual physical manifestations that might be happening within the world. And be on the lookout for maybe feeling a little bit sick. You know, that can happen too. 12th house is the house of hospitalization. And this can also represent like going to like meditative events, like maybe you do puppy yoga or something like that, or goat yoga. So that's something to keep in mind. We have the Page of Swords for, you know, where you are as you are entering this month. And this is the Shuffle Tarot deck. So the Page of Swords is dressed as the Fool. So we know that you're in this place of new beginning and inspiration and feeling like you want to explore, similar to how I was mentioning with this moon in the 12th house energy here. You know, you are out there to try new things, to dive into the unknown, to go into foreign places and different experiences, and you have an open mind. The Page of Swords, if anything, you know, flaws and all, they at least have an open mind, because there's so much that they don't know about the world and they're constantly growing. Page of Swords reminds me of those children who will ask, why is the sky blue? You know, why are the clouds like this? You know, what is your favorite color? Why is that your favorite color? Like, they ask a bunch of different questions, right? Very curious mind. And so you have this curious nature as you're going into this month. And with this Fool card mixture energy, you're ready for a shakeup. You're ready for a change. You're ready for a transformation. I will say, because we have moon in the 12th house in Capricorn, there may not be that huge amount of change and transformation, but that is the mindset that you're going to. So any place or any I should say, willpower or free will that you can implement within this month, you're going to use it to bring about change and transformation into your life. Experiment with different areas. We do have the Page of Swords connected to the sword houses. And since it's got that Fool card energy, it would also be Aquarius. It's also a sword house. So it's like the air sign. So Aquarius is really being emphasized, especially since we also have the star, which connects to Aquarius. And this is all about friends. Has to do with earnings from work or gains from statuses and titles and things along the lines of that. For example, let's say you have a title of a Yale student, and so now you can go into the Yale, I think they have like a private members club. So from that title, you gain access to that sort of circle and that institution. And that's something that can happen from that. So there's a lot of focus on your gains through your goals. So what are you achieving by meeting those goals? And as I mentioned, things having to do with friendships, things that have to do with, even if you're into real estate, there may be a focus on real estate this month. Or even just considering, like we mentioned, like moving abroad or traveling abroad or something like that. Just a focus on like where you're staying and where you're going and places to do with that. And this can also have to do with like gains from the market if you're into stock markets and the like. And also the most important thing having to do with the 11th house is it's the house of wish fulfillment, right? You know, it's like, hey, I want to be a movie star, but why do I want to be a movie star, right? People may want to be a movie star for various different reasons. Some people might want to be recognized for their talent. Some people may be like, I want the money. maybe they want the money and to be recognized for their talent, whatever the case may be. But that would be 11th house, what you gain from reaching that goal. So what you're gaining from your hopes and wishes, that becomes a focus of this month. And it may even be possible that you are achieving some of those things. And because you're achieving those things, you're reflecting a little bit longer on the next goal. That's a possibility for you guys. Now let's move on to this 10 of Pentacles. Now, I would normally reverse it, but since it's the Shuffle Tarot deck and it's like a combination of energies, I don't usually do that for the Shuffle Tarot deck. So I'm going to read this as this were upright. Because we have the 10 of Pentacles when it comes to finances, finances are good. And you know what? It's probably double good because we also have Jesta here. And Jesta here is one of the most popular nakshatras when it comes to gathering resources. It's also one of the most popular nakshatras when it comes to fame. And you can check out Claire Nocty's channel to look at some research in regards to that. I even think that I have a study on billionaires. It might be on this channel. But it also may be on my astrology channel. I think I might have originally posted it on this channel. But I did briefly, like years ago, back days, talked about some nakshatras that were associated with billionaires, and Jesta was one of them. And so you have to keep in mind that finances are pretty solid this month. And if it's not your finances in particular, meaning like maybe you feel like you're making the same amount of income that you always have made, you're really making strong, responsible choices. So that will help you to be successful in the long run. This is a stable month when it comes to finances. This is like I'm sticking to my budget. This is like I have paid off some credit cards. I've got a handle on any debts, or at least I've got a strong plan to deal with them. I maybe am entering a new financial era because 10s represents endings and new beginnings because they're ending. This is also saying I have support. You know, when we get to the 10 of Pentacles, we have a community on this card. And so there's a lot of resources available to you when it comes to finances, building longevity, and having a community there to support you in your journey. Oh, excuse me, guys. I don't know what's going on. Having there to support you and be your backing. 10 of Pentacles is a card that I love to see because it means that you're comfortable. And it's kind of funny because, you know, when rich people say they're comfortable, they mean that they're doing quite well for themselves. So I feel like whatever your version of doing quite well for yourself, you maybe at that point in this month of August. Even if you don't feel like you've quite reached that goal, the cards are letting you know that, yeah, this is the best possible situation for you at the current moment. And as I mentioned before, you might be transforming or transitioning into a new goal. You know, this can also represent meeting that goal. Like if you had said, oh, I'm planning to save 10 grand, you hit that savings goal this month and you've saved that and you've created this stability for yourself. And it's not even just mental stability, or we'd have gotten like maybe the 10 of cups, so you feel happy about everything. But this is like, yeah, real world practical stability that you will be building for yourself this month. It's a good plan. It's great structure. It's plenty of support or resources available to you. If you have been like waiting on approval for a loan or approval for a credit card, approval for something to do with finances or material resources, this sounds like you're getting it. And maybe some of you are looking into finding a place to, say, renting, things along the lines of that. If you have been waiting for the approval of getting some sort of house, this is perfect for that. It's like, okay, I have finally, the realtor called me, said I got the house, and this is exactly what I was looking for, and I can begin to build my financial future and my future of my home and where I want to live and things along the lines of that. But this is actually the best card you could possibly get for finances for the month of August. And then if I haven't mentioned promotion, then this could be a promotion for you. Or if you have investments, these investments may be doing quite well. So overall, really great. I also read this card to represent self-esteem, and similarly to how things are going quite well in the financial aspect, things are going quite well in the self-esteem aspect. The 10 of Pentacles is like, not only am I that girl or that guy, but other people think I'm that girl and that guy, right? So you're being supported. It's not just in your head. People are hyping you up. They think you're pretty great. They think you're someone who is an asset. People are showing that they appreciate you. They're showing that they value you, and you are showing that you appreciate and value yourself, and it will show in your habits. And I say this because I read this from an astrological perspective, and this is like the second house. And so when we have the 10 of Pentacles, that shows a strong investment into yourself. Whether that be a strong investment into your goal, second house, or in this card, I'm reading it as the second house in astrology, is what you consume and what you eat. And so a way to show that you value yourself is by treating yourself into things that are nutritious or that are good for you or that can support your physical and mental health. And it's showing that you are making the efforts to do that. And you're creating some long-term habits this month that are going to be healthy for you in the long run in terms of that. Maybe you go see your dentist this month. You know what I mean? And your dentist gives you some great flossing tips, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this from now on, right? And so you create that habit this month, and it sticks with you in the long run. I mean, I'm giving a really kind of a specific example, but it really can apply to various different areas. You could find yourself finding a diet that fits for you. For example, I remember one time I went on vacation to Hawaii, right? And I was trying out a lot of different things. And for the first time, I had tried like a poke bowl. And to this day, I incorporate poke bowls or poke-like bowl situations into my diet. It has now become a long-term thing. And it wasn't even just for health purposes. I just like it, and it just happens to be more so on the healthy side. But that could be something that is being done this month. And this can also just represent you showing care for yourself in other ways. It doesn't have to be a diet. It's just showing that you value yourself, you care for yourself, and you're doing things to support your well-being in the long run, right? Okay. And then it also shows that people will be valuing your voice this month. Self-esteem's good. That's all I want to say. Summarize it with self-esteem is good. It's high. It's doing well. You've built some good solid foundation. So I really like these cards for you. We also have the Master of Clouds Intelligent, or Intellect, I should say. So this is similar to, I'm believing, the King of Swords here because it says intellect, but I mean, I guess it could be King of Cups. That I can get emotional intelligence for that one too, but I'm assuming this is more so the sword energy here. But anyway, Master of Clouds, right? Somebody who is a dreamer, someone who can create nothing out of air, right? Lots of ideas, lots of up leveling in terms of thinking. You have your head in the clouds in the best way because you're mastering them, meaning you're creating your ideas into reality. And this has to do with work. So you probably have some ideas that you are able to implement into work this month. I do want to say it's actually really interesting because sometimes these cards connect to each other, meaning even though I'm giving them separate categories, we have the Ten of Pentacles next to the Master of Clouds, and then we also have loss here. So to me, it may even feel like you're giving up something at work. And I also want to say, because we have the 12th house, and that's also a house of loss and sacrifice. For some of you, this could be a loss of a job, but it doesn't seem to phase you. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't seem to be bothering you. And these situations can happen. Trust me, I've been unemployed for longer periods. And weirdly enough, financially, things worked out okay. So it could be a situation like that. Or maybe this job, you have gotten used to it and you realize it's no longer the best suit for you, or it's not suitable for anymore for you, and you end up removing yourself from that situation. But it becomes like, it feels a little bit like a loss because you've been there so long, and so now you're in this space of now what? Okay, I just want to throw that out there. But let's focus on Master of Clouds. So if you're not getting a new job this month, or you're not losing a job and you're just at the same old, well, Master of Clouds is a great idea because it does show that you're being respected this month for your ideas, that you're someone who is implementing new structures into the work environment. And it shows a up leveling in terms of responsibility and in terms of business strategy or marketing or promotion. But either way, the Master of Clouds is someone who isn't just thinking about the day-to-day practical things. They are, but they're also thinking about how it overall affects the company, the organization, the agency, whatever the case you work at. They're looking at things from multiple perspectives and at higher angles. That is why it's the Master of Clouds, right? It's looking over everything and it's getting the big picture. And so you're getting the big picture this month at work, and you're being appreciated for that. I definitely see some innovation when it comes to this environment. I do like to see this card because it gives a lot of freedom and liberty. The Master of Clouds, obviously, he's a master. There's no one above him. And even if there are supervisors and etc. above you, it does show a little bit more freedom. We do have that double Uranus Aquarius vibe here, and that card is all about freedom and having a little bit more space and leeway. I mean, have you ever tried to catch a cloud? Not possible, right? So it just becomes like, if someone's trying to box you in, you're going to find clever ways to get out of it. And then also I read this pal as reputation, right? So your reputation gets known for your intelligence. You get known for your ability. You get known for your thinking and your innovation. And the quality that you provide into the work environment. People are looking at you like, my goodness, this person's a genius. You know what I mean? You become that person in this environment. You're someone who is thinking on a higher level, quite literally, when we have this energy. And so I want you to know that this month, but you will be taking on some new projects. I think we know that because we have this Page of Swords Fool card energy. And obviously that connects to new things. And if this is connecting to the swords and this is a sword, it's kind of showing that this has to do with taking on something that is new, taking charge, leading it, and being successful at it. So I do want to throw all of that energy out there. For this month, it looks like career is going to be pretty solid, but don't be surprised if you find yourself reflecting and thinking about your long-term future and career when it comes to your current position. But I think we kind of went into that earlier. Isn't that weird how the cards kind of connect when you have this moon in Capricorn in the 12th house? The mind goes into like long-term goals and how you can reach them. In particular, we're thinking about this career card that becomes one of those focuses for this month on what is dwelling on your brain. You know, Capricorn in the 12th house, your subconscious is thinking about, how can I reach my goals? How can I get there? Like, how can I reach the next one? How can I level up? How can I get to that next level? Reminds me of that Jesta energy, right? Jesta energy is this energy of almost never being satisfied in a way. You know, they achieve one thing and then they want to climb to the next, which is probably why they end up being some of the richest and the most famous throughout history, because they don't become, I don't want to say complacent, but it's almost like, as I was saying before my camera so rudely cut me off, complacent's not the right word for it. It's more like you're not going to settle for just meeting one goal. And that theme seems to be coming up a lot with this reading. A lot of ambition here when it comes to that. I do want to say something when it comes to the Master of Clouds. This can do with a mastery of your emotions, keeping a cool head in situations that are very changeable. Whenever I see these fives in a reading, I know that there's going to be some changes and transformations occurring, okay, during the month of August, particularly in your area of love, but I'll get to that in a second. Just want to focus on you remaining calm in any chaos. Obviously, if you're the Master of Clouds, people are coming to you for direction. They're coming to you for advice. They're coming for you for help. And that may happen a lot more this month. You're relying on yourself to be flexible, to be fair, to be someone to let integrity and ethics guide you. If you're put in a situation at work where your ethics or morals are being tested, this month will be you choosing to do the right thing, even if it is a hard decision. Let's get into this love, because this Five of Raindrops, loss, similar to the Five of Cups. When it comes to the area of love, you know, for some of you, you may be going through a breakup. And I do want to say Jesta is in the house of Scorpio, which is all about these ups and downs emotionally. It also has to do with intense emotions. And loss is one of the most intense emotions that we can experience. So keep in mind for that this month. For some of you, that is not always the case. You may not always be going through some sort of breakup, right? It could just mean a change is happening within your relationship. Things are not the same as what they used to be. And maybe for some of you, this is about finding a new path forward within your relationship, or it even can just be quite literal, where one of you, your partner or you, might be going through a loss within that relationship. You know, there could be something going on with one of your lives in your life or their life, or maybe both of your lives. You know, maybe you have a pet together and that pet passes away, and that's something that you two have to go through in the relationship this morning period. You know, knock on wood that doesn't happen, but these situations can happen in life. But either way, it does show some changes and transformations in the area of love. Now, for those of you who are single and you're focusing solely on the love, like for those of you who are looking to date, well, you know, this can be a loss for what things used to be. And what I mean by that is maybe you're in the dating scene and you're recognizing things are just not what they used to be. And you're reflecting back on times where things might have seemed simpler, or it might have seemed more compatible for what you were looking for in terms of the dating scene, but things have just changed. Things have just transformed, and you're like, man, it's just not what it used to be. It's not as simple as it used to be. Things are more complex now. I've got to get used to this new environment. Or maybe you feel like you are out of options. You know, some people feel that way. Some people have this fear within them that, you know, as they grow older, particularly this narrative is pushed on women as they grow older, that they are supposed to have less options, and you might be feeling that. Some people actually internalize that and they feel, oh, I'm getting older now, there's less people to choose from, etc., things along the lines of that. And that could be some part of your emotional state when it comes to love this month. And then maybe some of you are pining over an ex. You know, I've got to go through all the basic scenarios here when it comes to the 5 of raindrops. I just feel as though that a lot of you are really taking the time to either mourn a relationship, mourn how things used to be. And then sometimes this is like, if you're not breaking up with someone, maybe you've had some feelings that may have been subconscious, because we're talking about this moon in 12th house and Capricorn energy here. And so it's less about even maybe mourning that relationship or mourning that potential of what you thought that relationship could have been. Because sometimes that happens, right? There's definitely been times in my life where I've pulled the 5 of Cups and I thought that I was over a certain relationship or partnership or romantic situation, but then it just hits me like a ton of bricks. And I have to go through this mourning ceremony or time to myself where I just let go. Like I have a moment to just grieve and say, that's over now. You know, say my wishes goodbye to that relationship, to that circumstance, to what it meant to me. And I have to move on, right? So there could be some moments like that this month where you're diving deeper into past situations and you're just like, you know what, I'm finally releasing those. And so this is very, very good. I like to see the 5 of raindrops. I know it's not like, I'm like, who's happy to see the 5 of raindrops? But I really am, because it shows that you're moving forward and you're not holding on to these harsh memories or harsh emotions or things that no longer serve you, because the 5 of raindrops is all about letting go of things that you don't need anymore. You don't need to hold on to that anymore. We can just let those go. We can just let those raindrops fall from our eyes, right? So there may be a lot of that, and you may even just be crying a lot this month over love for some of you. Sometimes this can feel like an absence of partnership and a sense of loneliness and missing company. For those of you who have zero interest in the area of love, then this can more than likely deal with some sort of creative project or even family and relationships, because I talk about the loss of a relationship, but then sometimes this could be a loss of a friendship. This could be a loss of a family member. It doesn't have to be literally like they're gone from this earth, but maybe you aren't as close anymore, or you're drifting away, or a friend moves, or you go through a friendship breakup, or you go through a family member breakup, whatever the case may be, and that relationship isn't the same anymore. And if you have children, and let's say they're going off to school, and I say going off to school because most of my viewers aren't going to be the age to have like children in college or going off to college, then this is just like, oh man, I remember when they were just 2 years old and I used to just, you know, hold them in my arms, and now they're just a, you know, big girl, big boy, and they're going off to school, and, you know, time is passing, and you're mourning that. You're mourning that period of time where they were a little bit less dependent. Independent, right? That's the word I'm looking for. So keep that in mind when it comes to things that could be going on in your life for this month. And as I mentioned before, or at least I wanted to mention before, the creativity aspect, it could just be that, let's say you are used to having success in one avenue. The Five of Raindrops would imply that you need to make some changes and transformations to progress and move forward. Things are not what they used to be. It's kind of like how, you know, magazines are like dying out, and it's like, you know, video killed the radio star. It's like AI is killing, I don't know what it's killing, jobs, social media, whatever. But it's changing the way that we interact with things creatively. You know, you have AI art and things along the lines of that. And so there could be this period of just like, oh wow, that authenticity is gone, or I need to change to adapt to the current environment, current audience, something along the lines of that. I need to leave behind this creative role or creative method or creative ideology or state that I was in and transform into a new state. And it can be hard to transform. Like, let's say you had like a signature style, or you had a signature thing that you like to do and you can't do that. Similarly to, like, it reminds me of this one time where I had fractured my toe, and I like to walk a lot. So it was the worst time to fracture my toe because it was in the summer, and I love walking in the summer. And so it was like Five of Raindrops here for me, because something that I enjoy doing, which I'm reading this placement as well, things that you love doing, you can't do anymore. Or at least you can't do it this month. You know, it doesn't mean that you can't do it the next month. There's a lot of different interpretations for you guys. These are general readings. So it may just be like, oh, I can't do this month. Like I like cooking a lot, but I sprained my wrist or I broke my arm, and now I can't cook that much this month, and it just feels like a loss. It feels sad that I can't do that. And then sometimes this could possibly be a loss of free time. Though we have Moon in the 12th house in Capricorn, as I mentioned before, 12th house is more about pausing and thinking, but sometimes it can give you these periods of chaos. And so you may not have as much downtime as you would like to sit and do something that you love doing. And it's like, I'm losing that time. That time is gone, right? I don't have that free time anymore, and that's not something I like. For those of you who have parents, like, or maybe you become a parent and you're like, oh, all my time is being given to my child, and so like I'm losing part of myself and the things that I like doing because I have to make this sacrifice for my child and give them the attention and care that they need to grow. So that's something that can happen. Where it may not even be a child, it could be something else. Like I have to focus my attention on this area, and so as a result I cannot do certain things within the month of August that I would really like to do, and that makes me sad. But overall I really do feel like this is a pretty good month. So keep that in mind. It's not like I don't get the vibe that this is a sad boy, sad girl month. So we have the Star card here, and that is something to do with hope, something to do with peace, something to do with balance, something to do with relaxation, something to do with, I guess, looking to the greater meaning of things. There's a spiritual aspect to the Star card that you should keep in mind. It's like healing, it's renewal. And so the fact that we got this Five of Raindrops, loss, and then following it is a card of healing and renewal sounds like a month of spiritual growth, transforming, letting go, moving to a higher level. A lot of emotional transformation this month, stepping into authenticity and looking for a brighter future. In fact, actively engaging and moving towards a brighter future, even changing and transforming some of those goals or reevaluating them, or as I mentioned before, taking upon new goals. This is what we see for this month. You see a lot of hope and faith in the future. So even if there's certain aspects or areas of your life that you're letting go of, or you're mourning, or you are pulling away from, it shows that overall for this month that it is relatively something that you are accepting. You're like, this is part of my path. And throughout this month, you carry a sense of inspiration with you. You're very optimistic. You're keeping on the bright side. You're keeping positive, which is what I like to see when it comes to this month. Also, this can represent some sort of fame, some sort of like I don't know, a stardom. And you can even see on the card Gesta, it says fame on it, right? So this double meaning of like fame and being out there, being in the spotlight with the star and Gesta here, as well as moon in Capricorn. So it's like I'm being seen, I'm being recognized. It's possibly even like, it kind of reminds me when celebrities talk about how they can't go to the grocery store, and that's just a part of their reality that they can't experience anymore because it's too chaotic, right? And so there may be some aspects of your life that may be simple that are being transformed this month because good things are happening to you, but at the same time you're just like, I kind of miss some of the simpler things, or I kind of miss some of the things that I can no longer do, even though I know that my life is moving in the right direction. Okay, so I just want you to know that. I feel as though like you are allowing yourself to venture off into unknown, unclear territory. You're growing, you're developing, you are someone who is very much in line with their spirituality, very much in line with who they are, taking those times to do those deep dives and deep reflection and doing that spiritual work and healing. And you know that you're going in the right direction. The cards are reaffirming you're going in the right direction, but still there's a part of you that's just like, but things used to be X, Y, and Z way, right? And that happens, right? Sometimes you look at the past and you maybe idealize it, or the change is just, it's hard to deal with, and it's hard to deal with for everyone. Most people don't like the change. I'll say it a million times. I'll say it again. Most people don't like change. Most people don't like change. You need to say it 3 times because it just happens. It's just part of human nature. We don't want to go through all these different transformations all the time. It can be unnerving. So even though you're moving towards something bigger and brighter, it's still a little bit like, it's still a little bit hurtful. It's still a little bit saddening. And I love that on this card Gesta, we have the power, the power to rise, conquer, and gain courage. So that's a lot of you this month. The power to rise, to conquer, and to gain courage. You are moving in a bigger direction, in a brighter direction. You're the star this month. you're shining. It does represent an element of glamour, an element of stepping into your true self, taking control of your life, having a strong sense of self-awareness, having a strong understanding of the reality that is in front of you. It is taking a higher perspective when it comes to the relationships that you're building, because remember, Jesta is in the sign of Scorpio, sits in the sign of intimacy, and you're investing more time in substantial, meaningful relationships. You are someone who is taking on more leadership qualities. You are in a position where you are possibly affecting a lot of different people's lives. I say that because we have this Master of Clouds and intellect and Jesta, as I mentioned before. A lot of billionaires, millionaires have this placement, a lot of famous people, and they have a lot of influence, as well as the Star card, which also has a lot of influence. And so there's a strong sense of responsibility. And you have to remember, Jesta is also called the eldest, right? It's that big sister energy card, right? And then I do want to say something I've noticed about Jesta is there's a struggle with jealousy. I don't know if that's your jealousy or someone else's, but you have to keep in mind, you know what this reminds me of? The evil eye. And maybe there is some positive things happening this month, and you're recognizing not everyone around you is in total support of this transformation. They could have some envy in you, people that you love, people that you held close to you. And I do want to say that is a theme for Jesta. A lot of the friendship betrayals, whether it's them themselves doing it or people doing it to them, I've seen so I can't even tell you how many Jesta people I have heard their experiences when it comes to betrayals and friendships and people switching up on them. Like like I'm not kidding. It is a common theme among Jesta individuals. If they're not doing it themselves, then that's happening to them in their lives. In fact, I don't think I've met one Jesta person where it hasn't happened to. And that's because when you have something of value, people want it. And so maybe that's part of that 5 of raindrops where you're like, oh, I've got to let this person out of my life because actually they're a very envious person and they're not exactly there to support me. And it's hard. It's hard to say, wow, this person did not have my back like I thought they would. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't feel like there's that need of validation that can come with Jesta. Like I said, they're always building and wanting more because they may feel unsatisfied with the way things are. But since I have this 10 of Pentacles represent security within yourself, I feel like you're taking on more of the positive Jesta qualities, which is a lot of creativity. You know what this reminded me of? I think Taylor Swift had that song, right? Bad Blood with Katy Perry, and Taylor Swift is a Jesta native. So, you know, she's singing about that betrayal, right? That friendship betrayal. Doesn't have to be a friendship. Could be another type of relationship. But she's singing about it. And it just happens with Jesta people. So you may find that happening. And it may not even just be a betrayal. It could just be envious people talking bad on you. But it does make you very strong strategically when it comes to analyzing what's around you, when it comes to swaying the crowd, when it comes to putting on a show, to being very entertaining, to be somebody who's magnetic, to be someone who can capture a crowd, to also be someone who is highly sharp and intelligent. When I see Jesta people, in fact, I follow a Jesta YouTuber who is a therapist, one of the best therapists that I've seen. To be honest, they're really great at articulating what it means to be emotionally intelligent, reactivity. They specialize in personality disorders, and they are really in-depth and analytical when it comes to really breaking that down and simplifying it to an audience, which is a true mastery over communication. I think sometimes people get caught up in wanting to sound intelligent or very academic and things along the lines of that, and they forget the whole point of communication is so that other people can understand you. And so I do want to say that there is a stronger mastery when it comes to communication, where you may be learning some new communication skills this particular month. Especially if you are looking to up-level yourself in terms of career. Obviously, communication is great, and people are looking at you as someone who can effectively communicate their ideas. So that is an instance that can be happening. Trying to think of anything else when it comes to Jesta. I did a study, and they do attract a lot of stalkers. The most out of, I don't know why I'm laughing, it's not funny. Out of the most nakshatra placements that I have seen, and I think it's because of that magnetic quality, that ability to hone in on the emotional care that we all need, having that strong sense of empathy and kindness. Not all Jesta people are like this, but when they are someone who is highly emotionally intelligent and aware, they do it at a higher level, and people are really in tune to them. As I said before, it is in the sign placement of Vedic Scorpio, all about that deep intimacy. So imagine having a conversation with someone who is truly emotionally intelligent, sharp, witty, funny, beautiful, smart, and they just get you, right? Or it feels like they get you. So it can bring about those intense emotions to attract people who, it may be a lot of unrequited attention here. I'll say that. So keep that in mind while you're interacting with people. It may be a lot of one-sided admiration, to put it lightly. Hopefully it's not extreme as that, but you know, I like to throw out scenarios, but I don't want to scare you. I really do like Jasta placements. I like all the placements. I find Jasta to be very hilarious and funny, great with words, amazing lyricists, great writers, brilliant entertainers. Honestly, they're one of my favorite placements, you know, and fierce competitors, right? So a lot of, you may be competing a lot this month and winning, competing and winning. But I don't feel as though this is a sense of like, what's the word? There's not a lot of braggadocious energy to these cards. The energy of this pile seems very calm, which leads me to believe that this is more of the mature sort of Jasta energy. So keep in mind, there's a lot of power through transforming through trauma. That is a major Jasta theme, along with journaling, self-reflection, and being a little bit of a control freak. So you might be just a little bit more like making sure everything is in its place this month. Keep in mind, it's very Mercurial ruled, and Mercurial people ruled are very particular. If you've ever seen that Martha Stewart documentary, I think that is a good display of that Mercurial controlling aspect to things. So that is what we want to keep in mind when it comes to Jasta. And similar to how you may be, you know, dotting your I's and crossing your T's with everything this month, you may be put under that same sort of, what do you say, perspective or feeling from other people, where people are watching you very closely. So that is something that I want to keep in mind. A lot of monitoring spirits, back to that evil eye I'm talking about here. I've definitely seen it. I've just definitely seen it. Don't know what else to say. But that's what I want you to know. So that is what I have for you, pile number 1. Hope this resonates. If not, feel free to choose a new pal or a new reader. Either way, I'm very happy you stopped by. Don't forget that I go live on the weekends, time post on community tab, Eastern Standard Night, Tuesday, Eastern Standard Time. That's what I meant to say. And if you want a private reading from me, links can be found below. I offer tarot and astrology readings. So yeah, just check that out, and I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey pal, number 2, let's get started on your August 2025. We have the Hermit to represent where you are, the Emperor for finances, the Hanged Man, or the Hanged One, they say, for career. We have Novice of Gems, skill development for love, and we have the Fool when it comes to an overall vibe for the month. Let me see if I can make that less crooked. And then our Nexetra card is Punavarsu, making their way to the front. Now let's roll our Astro dice and let's get started. Okay, we have the 11th house, Moon, and piece of hair. Sorry, guys. Aries. All right. Starting with the Astro dice. Moon and Aries in the 11th house. Now, to me, this kind of represents spending a good amount of time with friends. You know, sometimes Aries is hot-headed, so it can lead to arguments, but for the most part, it's like I'm focusing on making my dreams a reality. I'm being very ambitious. I'm forward-thinking. You know, Aries is all about that sign of momentum. And so it shows a lot of momentum in the area of career gains or goal gains, you know, anything that you gain from achieving your goals. It shows that you are making sure that you are, you know, getting something in return for your efforts, okay? Right? That is where the focus is. That's where your mind is when it comes to August 2025. This can also represent possibly some ups and downs within relationships with networks and friends. It could also represent meeting new people into your network, meeting new friends, gaining new opportunities. And in the sign of Aries, it's like people who can be very forward thinking or very structured. I know a lot of people don't particularly think of Aries as structured, but from my experience, you know, when you have a focused Aries, they're extremely strategic, very structured, very disciplined, and I guess just big goals, big ambitions, kind of what you expect from an Aries, right? And we even have this Emperor card here. So maybe that's even just like pertaining to you as well, when it comes to how you are moving within the world for August 2025, that you're coming across as being very disciplined and structured when it comes to achieving your goals. A moon in the 11th house, like I mentioned in a previous video, is pretty good about things financially. It means you have a level head, making sure that you're making sound decisions. Don't get me wrong, moon in Aries can be a bit impulsive, but for the most part, when it's in the 11th house, seems to me that there are more opportunities for gains when it comes to finances, when it comes to upskilling, when it comes to having those big dreams come true. Don't mind me, guys. It's early in the morning. Don't mind my yawning. I am not bored, I promise you. So when it comes to upscaling, when it comes to finances, when it comes to gaining some of those goals, then it's like, yeah, I actually might reach this. But I really do feel like that's where your head is at. That's where your focus is at. You're not letting anyone stop you from trying to move forward, right? Speaking of trying to move forward, because we have this Aries card and we also have the Emperor here for finances, and as I mentioned before, I really feel like this can be some sort of up-leveling when it comes to things in the financial sector or even just between work and jobs. It shows, or at least it's reflective within the reading as well. The Emperor card connects to Mars, which obviously connects to Aries. And so for me, financially, this month, it's pretty strong. I mean, it's not like the Emperor is broke here. Like, the Emperor is somebody who is definitely well taken care of, who has a lot of responsibilities on his plate, and who is someone, like I said, is very forward thinking when it comes about their finance. There's a lot of like focus on the future this month, August 2025. Like, you're focusing on where you can go next, what direction that you can move in, what you can accomplish, what you can, how you can align yourself to meet your goals. And there's a lot of confidence here. Like, the Emperor is one of those great cards to get when it comes to your confidence this month, when it comes to your finances this month. Emperor is all about structure, control, like I said, long-term vision. And so when it comes to your finances this month, you're making sure that you have a system set in place. The Emperor does not move without a system. You have a strong control over the flow of your finances, of what's coming in, what's coming out. You may have a plan, a strategy. I'll say the Emperor is more focused about like expanding. You know, the Emperors like to conquer. So this could be about like, how can I expand my resources? How can I expand my gains? How can I expand the things that I own? So there is a lot of that going on as well. And this can also represent, like, if you're single, This can represent, well, how can I expand like the people in my life? And so it can represent like dating as well. And the moon in the 11th house is obviously looking at the 5th house. So either you want to expand yourself creatively, or you want to expand yourself within love. All right. So I do want to talk about that for a bit, or even just reflecting in those areas, but whatever the case may be. Great month for that confidence. Great month for the finances. It really does show that like you're looking up ways to how you can make more money, as well as, like I said, you are creating a system in place where it feels as though you are properly budgeting. You have a good understanding of how you're spending. You're saving for the future. The Emperor is definitely someone who is going to invest in the future, whether that's literally or whether you're thinking about buying things that can be more lasting long term, because this pile in particular is also what you buy. Like the Emperor, don't get me wrong, like I said, with this moon and Aries here, there can be some impulsivity, but for the most part, it's like I don't want to spend my entire budget on like fun little trinkets. I want things that are going to be lasting. I want things that have durability. And so it's about investing in things that are quality or make sense to you in the long run. It's not going to be some quick sort of situation. You buy something cheap, or I'm trying to think of something cheap that might be like a throwaway or something like that. I guess maybe like it depends, not food. Well, maybe depending on the food. But maybe you're just buying something temporary, like makeup or something. Like that's not a long-term investment, right? So if you're buying something, and you typically buy things like makeup, the Emperor cards comes here for August 2025, and it's just like, yeah, I don't want to just spend my money on buying a bunch of makeup and lipstick and chapstick. That stuff expires. I want to invest in my future, something that would be a little bit more lasting and stable. So it could be like I'm buying high quality furniture, or I'm like going to invest in a car. Granted, that's a little bit more depreciation, but I'm going to invest in art, right? That's something that you can do, right? That goes up over time in terms of money and value you get back. I'm investing in gold. Doesn't even have to be investing. You could, like I said, be buying things that are higher quality that last longer. All right, let's move on. Back to the Hermit. We didn't even get to the start. So the Hermit card here this is the Shuffle Tarot deck, and this is combined with the Chariot. So I see this card as somebody who has achieved victories, who has gone through a lot, who has, vested the competition, but they are having a rough time. Like they've got all these arrows in them. It's like I won, but man, at what cost? Like it reminds me of the ending of Squid Games, where he wins the first game, and then his he comes home and he finds his mother has passed away. So it's like I'm winning, but it doesn't feel as though the things that I'm putting my efforts into are worth it. And that can happen, right? We all can go through work burnout. And I've even seen this pattern, like I feel like over the years, more so, more frequently, like where people are just feeling as though they're vesting so much of their life and so much in their time in companies and corporations that don't care about them, or jobs that don't care about them, that will replace them. So the Hermit card here is just like, yeah, I got the job. And then you get the job and you're like, this job is, I don't know, like, this is just not pleasant. I don't enjoy being here. I don't like it. And it's really interesting here because on Punarvarsa, we have the arrow and the quiver. And you can see there's arrows here, there's arrows here. For Punarvarsu, the arrow and the quiver represents, basically, from what I have seen, repeating patterns, or patterns having to do with learning from lessons. Now you could be the positive side of the arrow and quiver, and you shoot an arrow and you work on your aim. And you make sure that you are pointing towards objects or using your arrows for good. What I mean by that is, let's say you're someone who has like 10 arrows and you're just shooting them all willy-nilly. You don't bother to have focus. You don't bother to think about how long these arrows are going to last. You don't gain any skill set from it. You're just shooting these arrows. So pretty quickly, you may find yourself in a situation, like let's say you were in the wild, where you're not going to survive, or your lack of skill set and focus and drive, or just kind of impulsively making decisions could leave you SOL, you know. Versus if you were someone who is focused, who recognizes these arrows get worn over time, who recognizes they need to sharpen them, they need to take care of them, they need to work on their aim, they need to figure out a target, like etc., things like that. When they have a little bit more focus and they're improving each time, instead of kind of going through the same scenario and expecting things to work out better, then things work out better, right? If they actually put in the effort to make it work out. So Punarvasu is all about those repeating patterns. And so you may have found yourself at some point in a cycle of repeating patterns where you feel as though, you know, maybe you go to one job and you are excited to work there, but then you realize, oh man, this job is just like every other job. It's leaving me worn out. You know, I'm tired of talking to people. Like, because this is the Hermit card after all. This is exhausting. There's a lot of conflict here. And it doesn't even have to be a job. It could be some other area in life where you just find yourself in some repeating pattern. And you're like, I can't do this anymore. This is too tough for me. Like, I need to escape this. I need to move on from this. Like, this is not the vibe. Well, this month is all about stepping into a new space of freedom and actually doing, like I said, there's a lot of reflection about the future this month, but you're actually doing the deep work to figure out how you can break these cycles that you find yourself in. That, like I said, yes, you may be achieving some sort of victories, but you're like, dang, at what cost? Like, what am I getting from this? As I mentioned before, Punarvasu is one of those wealthy placements that I've seen. Like when I was studying billionaire charts, Punarvasu was one of those that came up. I think it was like Punarvasu, Jesta, and Maga. Like they came out the most for billionaires in terms of sun sign placement. And I think Jesta overall is like good for moon sign and sun sign. Like Jesta is just a really good one, but Punarvasu is good as well. And you can even see it. It's called Wealthy Again on the card placement, and it's known for that. You can see the house, you can see the cars, like you see the monies and stuff like that. Like it's one of those cards for that. So you're achieving those victories, but it feels like you're alone in the celebration. You don't really have maybe that support, or if you do have that support, you're feeling like, wow, I still have to lick my own wounds. I still have to uncover or unravel this trauma from the situations that I've gone through. It's rough out here. But as I mentioned before, there's still victories technically, you know. And this can also show that you're coming from a place where you've accomplished something and now you're just like, I need to rest. It doesn't have to be that serious about repeating cycles. Like, for example, me personally had to study a lot for a certification. And then once I was done, I was like, oh, thank God, I could just rest a little bit. I mean, I really couldn't rest, but like, I felt that way. So maybe that you're entering this month and you're like, I accomplished a few things. It's time for me to rest. It's time for me to go on a little vacay. All right, let's move on. We have the Hanged One, Surrender. Ooh, I love this one. So this is actually perfect because I know so much about this position and everything for the hangman, for the career. And what's happening here is actually you may either go through one of these situations or you may even hit every single one. So the hanged one, similar to the hangman, surrender. Ultimately, it's all about surrender, right? So this month, when it comes to your workplace, it's like you may have been pushing hard for changes, transformations, or working on like some sort of assignment, right? Doesn't matter. And what's happening is, instead of you trying to propel things forward, instead of you trying to make changes, instead of you trying to switch this thing and make sure this thing doesn't go wrong and make sure this customer is satisfied, or, you know, make sure you have all of your T's and I's, your T's crossed and your I's dotted, the hangman is like, you know what, I'm going to let people do their things. However this plays out is however it plays out, right? If you have been pushing for fairness, equality, promotion, space, your own autonomy, leadership, and you've been receiving pushback, or you haven't received support in those areas, or you really had to fight for support, and it's like everything's an uphill battle, this is like, all right, I'm giving up the battle. Like, I'm just going to let y'all do whatever y'all want to do. I'm no longer contributing. Like, I'm no longer being the person who is going to fight so hard. And that makes sense, especially with this Hermit card and the Chariot. You're like, I've already put in this so much work. I've already put in so much time. Like, I'm not going to keep bending over backwards, right? The hangman, when it comes to work, is very interesting because, as I've mentioned before, at some point it can represent like a sabbatical, a break, time off, whether that's you getting sick, whether that's a holiday, whether that's, you know, an emergency situation where you're like, I gotta just stay at home, whether that's a remote work opportunity. But either way, it represents one of those scenarios when it comes to this month. This can also represent as well as taking a new approach when it comes to work. So you could be someone who says, all right, I'm going to actually step into a new role. And like I said in the beginning when I first started with this spread, you may hit every single point with these this month, right? But you could say, all right, I'm going to step it up and I'm going to be more of a leader, right? Because you have a lot of leadership cards here. And once you try to step up and implement ideas, be more so like a leader, you notice they aren't receptive to it. Like, they don't want to have to deal with that. And so you're just like, okay, let me step back. So you see how both of these energies of coming at things from a new perspective, but then also surrender, can happen within the same month. So you may be, like I said, coming at things with a new perspective, switching a role, looking inward towards the future, taking a new approach to matters at work. Whether that works out or not, that's going to depend on your situation. Being more so like caught in a deep thought of like where you can go next. But generally the hangman is not going to be the card of like saying, hey, I want to stay at this place when it comes to my career. The hangman is more so somebody who is in the background. They're someone who is more so on the sidelines, like they're a little bit withdrawn. So you may even be at work a bit more withdrawn, more inward, more to yourself. When it comes to actual, like, whether it's slow or fast this month, the hangman is interesting because it can create periods where things are just like, there's not a lot going on, but then it'll get to a place where you have to like finish things last minute. And it's like, okay. But the hangman is not known for being balanced, which makes sense. You know, it's hanging in there. It's not really like stable. So at work, expect things to be kind of like, you know, up and down, right? Things like that in terms of like the pacing. But like I said, I can see you coming forward to assert yourself. I've seen the hangman do that. but then having to be forced to be put into the background. It really does depend on your situation, because if you've been someone who's been assertive the entire time, well, then this is you moving to the background. And if this is someone where you haven't been assertive, this is you trying to move to the foreground. Now, whether that transition happens, I don't know. I haven't seen the Hangman actually be that great when it comes to transitions, but it does show that you're actively trying to take this new approach. Lastly, I want to talk about the last thing. When it comes to the Hangman, this could be this limbo period where you feel like you're waiting for something to happen, where you want things to move forward. Whether it's like, oh, I'm waiting for a promotion, I'm waiting to hear back from a job, I'm waiting for a new interview, I'm waiting for an opportunity, I'm waiting for a shift, I'm waiting for a change, but it just feels like there isn't a lot of momentum when it comes to this month. You have to remember the Hangman is all about waiting. It's all about being patient. It's all about surrendering to the circumstances around you. It's what you can't control in life. It's like, I can't control this. I don't have anything to do with this. Like, I can keep pushing, I can keep trying, but what can you do, right? So it's all about the areas of life that you can't control. And so I mentioned feeling like you're in a period of limbo, feeling like you're waiting. I remember I got the Hangman and I was waiting to hear back about several things that month. And this was for career. It was like I was waiting to hear back about certain jobs, I was waiting to hear back about certain results for things related to my career. I was waiting when it came to conversations I was having with leaderships and decisions. It was just a lot. It was just a lot. It felt like, you know, it felt like I was on death row or something like that. Like, that's the energy. It's like, okay, I'm just waiting for that axe to drop. I'm waiting for some movement forward. As I mentioned before, the Hangman doesn't like to move too much, so I don't particularly believe that this will be like a new job happening, but you can be thinking about the direction that you're going to go and planning your next steps. I feel like you guys are in the more positive state of Queen of Arts where you're planning your next steps. What was I going to say? There was something here. Reputation, like I said before, it's like a little bit more withdrawn, a little bit more to yourself, a little bit more busy as well. The Hangman is someone who doesn't have a huge amount of time for others. And so it shows that you just have a lot going on. I read this house as reputation. And so this shows that you seem to be like a person who you just don't have a lot of free time. And speaking of not a lot of free time, we have Novice of Gems when it comes to skills and development. Skills and development. So I read this placement as love, but I also do read it as kind of like the fifth house in astrology. And the fifth house in astrology has to do with skills and development. So it's actually really interesting that we have this card here. And so this month, I really feel like you are investing in yourself. Whatever skills or development, skill development that you're working on, whatever up leveling you're working on, whether that's you going to school, you taking a certification, you in your free time learning something, or I think when we say learning something, people think that I'm like, okay, look up how-to YouTube videos or go to school. But you could be learning something when it comes to like marketing. Like technically, I have this tarot channel and I've learned a lot over the years when it comes to marketing. I know it may not show, right? Because of I have a more smaller audience. But trust me, I know what I need to do if I want it to be bigger, right? So things you learn in marketing over the years, or at least I've learned, right? If you want the videos to go viral, if you want them to be popular, you pick the popular searches. You pick the things that are SEO. You pick the things that people are looking up, right? You consistently put those words there, but then you switch it up. You don't want the same tags all the time, right? And so that's learning, but that's like learning through experience. And that could also be something that you're going through this month. Like I'm just throwing some examples out there, but it does show some growth in those areas. This can also show growth when it comes to any sort of hobbies or things that you might be into as well. So if you are looking to develop some skills, you could be into nail art and you're like, ooh, I really want to make sure that I'm up leveling my skills when it comes to nail art. People have so many different hobbies. Like you could be into crafting furniture. Met a woman once who, you know, loved making, like they made their own chairs. And so I was like, oh, that's so super cool. So you could be really into that. But it's all about developing those skills this month. And also, it doesn't have to be practical skills. You know, someone says something. It was like on the internet where they were like, hey, dating is a skill. And I think I've said that before too, where you could be learning how to flirt. You could be learning how to present yourself in person. You could learn how to present yourself on a dating app. Like whatever the case may be, you could be learning the art of conversation. So when it comes to love, it's like, hey, I'm developing skills that might potentially help me within my romantic life, where I could be learning communication skills, where I could be learning skills having to do with emotional intelligence, when I can learn to look at things from a new perspective. For example, the Hangman, because sometimes these cards kind of just give you an example or give you more of a vibe of what the other cards are saying, like how they connect with each other, give a vibe. So it's like a Hangman skill set vibe. And so a Hangman skill set vibe is more than likely something to do with more so emotional intelligence. Like I see myself in you. I see your perspective. I'm looking at things how you're looking at things. I am recognizing that it's hard to be vulnerable, that you may be coming from a place that maybe you're saying one thing, maybe you're saying things in an angry tone, but what you're really trying to say is, hey, I'm scared that you'll leave, or I'm worried this might not work out. And so these are all things that are skill development when it comes to like a hang one, surrender, skill development type of thing when it comes to relationships, right? So a lot of maturity within that area. And then I've already mentioned the examples of quite literal skill development. So as I was going into with the Novice of Gems, essentially we know that you are thinking about maybe taking on some new skills, up-leveling skills, developing in those areas, whether those are social skills, emotional skills, or anything to do with that. It can also represent, like if you work with family, lots of people have family businesses, then this is you guys learning a system or implementing new things into your businesses as you work together, or I even said working to overcome some family issues or something along the lines of that is quite a possibility if you're in therapy with a family member, then or family, you know, people do that and they develop in those areas. So that's something to think about. Now, when it comes to friendship and things along the lines of that, this can do with business. So for those of you who have a business partner or you work with someone, well, this is similar to what I was saying before, where you are finding new ways of working together, improved ways of working together. That's a more specific scenario. But for those of you who are just with your friends, honestly, this can just mean trying new things together. For example, you know, Novice of Gems is like the Ace of Pentacles. And on this card, it says like skill development. So one thing you could possibly be doing is just like, okay, I'm going to go try tennis with a friend, right? I always say tennis. It could be anything, really. You could say, I'm going to go do yoga with a friend. Technically, that is developing some sort of skill, but it's also fun and you're hanging out with your friends. So that's something that can be happening this month. Now, in terms of love, like just concentrating on the love factor, for those of you who are single, I do imagine you would probably stay single through this month. This can represent dating opportunities. As I said, since we have Moon in the 11th house, it's aspecting the 5th house. And so there can be opportunities for dating, but generally I would get something like the Novice of Gems to be more so like I'm focusing on projects or passions or hobbies or things that I kind of want to do, right? Even if I'm just like reading a new book or I'm just watching a new show and whatever the case may be. Like, that is something that would align with this type of energy here that I see on the cards. And then for those of you who are like actively looking, who are single, well, like I mentioned, this can just mean, hey, I might be meeting someone new, and from that interaction, I've learned some things about me, or I've gained some new dating type of skill that I can apply to further interactions with other people. It could be anything from like, oh, I'm learning not to be so judgmental, or I'm learning to listen more, or I'm learning to ask more for what I want. Like, these are things that are quite possible. And those of you who are in relationships, this can represent actively trying to make improvements into those relationships. The novice of gems, like I said, is very Ace of Pentacles correlation to that. And when you see this Pentacle aspect, it's like you're taking care of the practical aspects of a relationship. And that can have to do with having an understanding or coming into a flow that can, what's the word I want to say? Bring more balance into the relationship. Like, what are your expectations? What are their expectations? And managing to work together when it comes to that. All right. So I just want to throw all of that information out there for you. But I do still see things being very stable and in the area of love and possibly supporting. This can also represent just people you love, or animals and things along the lines of that. So maybe you're finding new ways to support your children or animals within your life. You're like, oh, I got to take my kid to the doctor. I got to take my pet to the vet. So these are things that can be happening this month in terms of, you know, loved ones. Now, the overall vibe for this month is the Fool. That is definitely very unpredictable energy, and it definitely aligns with the Uranus and Gemini energy that we have going on currently right now as I'm filming this, and I'm sure as this will be shown, because Uranus will be in Gemini for a little bit. It retrogrades back into Taurus, but it'll be in Gemini when this reading is out. And that's just bringing a lot of unpredictability when it comes to your life this month. The Fool card is very explorative. The Fool card is like, I'm ready for something new. And that's really no surprising. As I mentioned before, you have a lot of like reflection and forward thinkingness when it comes to this month. You're like, I'm ready for this fresh start. I'm ready for something new. So there are some developments taking place. Now, as I already mentioned before with the career with the Hangman, generally it doesn't show like momentum and transformation in terms of career this month, but it does show that you might be developing new skills or new experiences that highlight the direction that you want to go into. And that still aligns with the Fool too, because a new beginning is coming. Remember, after the Hanged Man or the Hanged One card is the Death card, the card of change and transformation. So we know that we're moving into that, at least towards the end of this month, when it comes to the career. Like, you're like, I'm ready for this shift, right? So when we have the Fool card, you are thinking of what changes that you can implement into your life, and a lot of these changes are focused when it comes to the area of fun, happiness, relationships, things along the lines of that. But you're obviously applying this energy overall. When we have Punavarsu here, Punavarsu is connected to Gemini and Cancer, so no surprise here when we talked about that Uranus and Gemini energy. Now it's Now it's Uranus, sorry. Now it's Gemini and Cancer in Vedic astrology, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's just showing that there's going to be a lot of developments when it comes to home, when it comes to where you want to live, when it comes to your emotional world, for sure. That is definitely undergoing some new changes, whether that is you feeling reinvigorated and feeling refreshed, or just feeling like you need to switch things up. The Fool has to grow. The Fool has to go on adventures. The Fool has to learn. It's all about like diving into this new world and experience. And remember when I was talking about the quiver and bow, about repeating cycles and patterns and things along the lines of that. To me, when I see this, I don't see you falling into that nature of the quiver and bow. I feel like you're falling into the side where you're actually learning and growing and developing. And one thing that I note about Punavarsu is it's about breaking free, because it's a Jupiterian type of energy. It is ruled, the nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter. And as I mentioned, it's in the sign of Cancer and Gemini. So it's about freeing yourself from inhibitions from other people and being honest about your desires and the directions that you want to go into in this life. I've seen Punavarsu people just kind of reject the social norms or even morality of the greater society and decide their own rules of what is best for them. It is making sure that you are respected. And even on the bottom of this card, as I mentioned before with the wealth aspect, it says the power to gain abundance. Like, I did not need that card to see that. As I said, I did my own wealth study, so I know Punavarsu is that's what it does. So there may even be some abundance within the area of emotionally or financially. It could actually deal with both. It's freeing yourself from any emotional cages that you've been in, any financial cages that you might have found yourself in, any partnerships that just don't align with you. You're freeing yourself from that, and that is the overall vibe for this month. Speaking a little bit more when it comes to Punavarsu, Punavarsu is that planet that really wants to, I'm gonna say, it looks for deeper connections. It looks for connections that may not necessarily be a typical or not necessarily what people would expect for them. I've noticed that with Punavarsu people, and it can also show that you are being very generous this month when it comes to your time, your energy, your emotions, and your internal world. It can represent a deeper vulnerability as well as growing into a deeper understanding of yourself and other people. Okay, it's like return to the light. That is the Punavarsu saying, and returning to light is like embracing authenticity, which aligns deeply with the Fool card here. So you're stepping more into your authentic self through the month of August. And honestly, with the Fool card here, I'm going to say expect the unexpected. This month is going to be all over this place. This month is going to bring a lot of unpredictable circumstances. This month is more than likely going to, rock your world. There's not that stability here when it comes to events. There are stable aspects in your life, like your finances, and things along the lines of that. But when it comes to the experiences that you are having this month, expect the unexpected, especially if there is some changes in home or family structures and things along the lines of that. As I said, Punavarsu really does connect to that Gemini Cancer energy, and so there's some switches and changes in that area. Also, Gemini has a lot of skills, and we already talked about development of skills, so the focus is on like skills and family and personal relationships as well. It can connect with meeting a lot of new people, making connections. Punavarsu is really great when it comes to networking, as well as being able to negotiate with people or get what you want from certain people, and things along the lines of that. It's a card that's very business oriented, so it's no surprise that it's in the sign of Gemini. So think of like Kris Jenner and how she's kind of known for being this almost entrepreneur business, she is an entrepreneur business woman who's known for her social skills, and she is a Punavarsu native. So she's very Punavarsu driven. I remember this video where she talked about how she wanted to be on a certain flight where that she would be based in Los Angeles so that she continued to date her boyfriend, which was obviously at her time Robert Kardashian. And so she would bring brownies to the people who were in charge of the scheduling, and that's how she was able to get her base to be Los Angeles. So you see how she's networking and creating these relationships, and I guess in a way sort of like bribing people so that she can get what she wants. So there's you thinking of different elements and new ways in order to meet your desires, which was where we have this moon in the 11th house here. Being very strategic about your thinking, but also using that emotional intelligence to move in a new direction that will bring you more freedom and more happiness and will align you with your true path and self. So that is what I have for you, pal number 2. Hopefully this resonates. If not, feel free to choose a new pal. Sorry I'm talking so low. There's a lot of people asleep in my house right now, so I'm not using my normal voice. Some of you will probably like it because I've heard I'm a little bit loud. I'm a loud talker. So that is what I have to say for you. Be open to the change, be open to the transformation, expect a lot of generosity coming your way, as well as being very generous to other people. You know, I scratch my back, you scratch mine type of energy to some degree. And I think I'm gonna leave it there for now. You may even find yourself forgiving some people. That's something I've noticed with Punavarsu. It's very forgiving type of energy. And if you find yourself in a relationship or obtaining a new love or meeting someone new, there could be a lot of deep feelings there right away, because Punavarsu, they can get kind of like a very, very lovesick, right? That's the energy of Punavarsu. When they love very hard. So I'll leave it there, and I will see you next time. Don't forget that I go live on the weekends. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want a private reading with me, all you have to do is fill out the form below. I'll get back to you. And that is that. Yeah, tune in for next Thursday for the next reading, and I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal. Number 3. Let's get started on your August 2025. This is our Shuffle Tarot deck. It is a combination of the 9 of Pentacles and the 9 of Wands. This represents where you currently are. This is finances. This is career. This is love. This is general energies for the month. And let's pull our Nakshatra card. For you, we have Chitra. So let's get these cards out here. And I also have my Astro dice. Yes, we're getting into it. All right. Okay, so we have the moon in Cancer in the 10th house. So the moon in Cancer in the 10th house is very interesting because, you know, Cancer and the 10th house are opposite from each other. The 10th house is Capricorn, and the opposite of Cancer is Capricorn. So it's almost like you're bringing more comfort and more personal intimacy into the workplace in a way, especially since we have the moon in Cancer. So the moon's in its own sign. So it's very comfortable there, and it likes being there. Doesn't necessarily like being in the 10th house where it's out there in the world, but it likes being in Cancer. So it's like, I'll make the best of this, right? I got the house on the hill. It's beautiful. It's comfortable. Everyone can see it. And so to me, you might even find yourself bringing more of like your personal life into the work realm. Or if you're not doing that, let's say you're a private person, well, this is just having more, one or more intimate conversations at work, essentially. You know, people might be sharing their own personal business if you're not sharing yours. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, we're all people. We all have issues and things that we have to go through. So you might find that people are opening up. You know, this is very much strong work bestie type of energy. This can also feel like you're bringing a little bit of your work home. Your mind is very focused on your goals and what you can achieve. I say work, but 10th house is really just your goals. And your mind is very focused on what you can achieve, how you can make sure that you're in alignment with where it is that you want to go in life. It can also show that you may have, like, let's say you're at work and you have a kid and they may be calling you a lot this month at work, and you're like, oh man, like I've got my home responsibilities are, you know, connecting to work. Like I'm having to balance work and home, and it's like they are intertwining with each other. They cannot be separated. You know, reminds me of that show Severance, where they sever their consciousness. So they have their innie and their outie, their work personality and their outside personality, and the two don't know each other, the two don't meet, they have two different experiences. Well, this is the opposite of that. This is everything coming together and intertwining. You might even be doing your personal, you know, businesses at work. Maybe you're like, oh, I got to do my breakdown of my finances at work, and you know, I got to do it during my lunch break or something along the lines of that. Or, you know, I've got to call my kid at lunch. I've got to make sure the house is in order, and I've got to make this, you know, personal phone call or something like that. So that can be going on at work. And this, like I also said, could be having to have those personal conversations with other people at work, as I've already previously mentioned. But it does show an overall sense of being very much in touch with your emotions. So when I see this moon in Cancer, I know that the moon is very ambitious. When you think about the moon, you don't normally associate the moon in Cancer with ambition, but it is there. In fact, you'll find a lot of moon-ruled people, men in particular, being in positions of leadership. And so I feel like there is this call or even push towards leadership this month. And so keep that in mind when, as you move through the month, that you may be taking on more responsibilities at work or just in general, because the 10th house just rules like, hey, I want to get things done, right? So that could be a strong possibility of what is going on. There's something else I wanted to say, right? This can bring a sense of empathy and understanding, as well as what do you call it when people feel connected to others? Empaths, right? So you may feel like that sort of empathic nature at work, where you're letting your intuition guide you throughout this environment. You're picking up on other people's emotions, high and low. And the moon is also a card that's really great when it comes to secrets, right? Like I get the card, the moon symbolism in astrology and in tarot, right? They have that same secretive nature. This is why everything comes together, where you might be picking up on some workplace secrets or even drama. I will say with this energy here, you know how the moon is, especially in its own sign, it's very changeable. So there's a lot of changeability this month when it comes to your goals, when it comes to your responsibilities, when it comes to your work environment, and maybe even titles, because the 10th house rules like how you are perceived within the world and how people view you. So, you know, if I were married, I'd be Mrs. Brandy rather than just Brandy here, right? So your title can change as well this month. Keep that in mind. Or like if you were a student and then you graduate, now you are a graduate. You're no longer a college student. So it doesn't have to be like married. It could just be like, this is my new role. And so you might be taking on new roles. You might be giving up a role. Whatever the case may be, that is shifting this month. When we're talking also about this 10th house energy, this can also be a time where you are being more personable. This is very social energy. I will say in the moon house, the moon in the 10th house is probably the least sociable it can be, weirdly enough. I know you think at the top of the chart, it's like everyone wants to talk to it. And yeah, everyone wants to talk to the person on top. But really, you might be feeling like, oh man, like this feels like a little bit of a burden to have to handle all of these different emotions and characters and things along the lines of that. It's just, you might feel as though you're being looked at as more of an authority rather than an equal. So there's a sense of heaviness or responsibility to the conversations that you have that you may not have had in previous months. Okay, so keep that in mind for the month of August. And I'm talking low because a lot of people are asleep in my house, so not everyone, but I don't want to wake anyone up. We have the Nine of Wands, Nine of Pentacles combination for where you are, you know, kind of on par with this moon in the 10th house in Cancer, representing that you are taking joy, pride, and a sense of fulfillment in accomplishing your responsibilities. On this combination of the cards on the Shuffle Tarot deck, the Nine of Wands / Pentacles is still in their garden, but the garden is not filled with a bunch of pentacles or flowers or things that are potentially fruitful and bountiful. There's some grapes there, but if you can see on this card here, there's a weird hand at the bottom here, and for me, it kind of represents more of the sacrifices that we have to make in order to get to where we need to go. And also, she has a very simple attire. So it's less about basking in the glamour of success and more so a sense of personal fulfillment and understanding that comes from accomplishing your own goals, a sense of internal confidence and an understanding of how you have affected others, as well as what you have done for yourself. It's a card that has to do with more self-motivating. It's not as, you know, worn out and wounded as the typical Nine of Wands card normally is, but it also is in a place where it recognizes that what they're doing is highly important to them. It reminds me of a conversation that I had heard. This was some video I was watching on the internet where they were talking about like positive motivation and dark motivation, meaning like positive motivation, like, oh, I'm making changes to people's lives. People are encouraging me. They're saying you can do it. You believe. I believe in you. Kind of like the stuff I like to do on my channel for you guys. And then dark motivation is like I'm being motivated by the people who said I could never make it, by my haters, and I'm going to prove them wrong and things along the lines of that. Versus self-motivation, which is just like your natural inclination towards self-betterment and success and feeling like this is my purpose, this is my goal, this is who I am, this is true to me, this is my path. And I feel like there's a lot of that as we go into this month, and it may even represent where you're currently at. You're canceling out all of the noise of whatever external factors are going on, and it's really just a quiet moment to yourself to understand what is at the core rawness, importantness, your soul. Like, what is it that gets you up in the morning? What is it that motivates you? What is it that drives you? What is it that makes you want to do more? And there may not be a reward for that, or at least not an external one, but there's definitely an internal one here. But you can see this person is still very happy and very pleased with their situation. They have this bird on their hand. They are walking still through their garden, less extravagant, but they're proud of the work that they have done, and they still take time to take care of themselves and take breaks. Like I said, they're not as worn out as the Nine of Wands who keeps going. They're still taking that time to try to balance and say, all right, well, let's take a little pause. And this also with the moon in the 10th house can represent taking pauses and breaks at work as well, taking a little bit more time to just say, you know what, I just need 10 minutes to collect myself, focusing on that mental health aspect. So I really like this place for where you are in this month. You're focused, you're level-headed, you are self-directed, and you're at peace with that. And if you're not there yet, you will be. If you're not there yet, you will be. So when we're talking about this Eight of Cups here, when it comes to finances, I swear we've gotten this before in another reading. And I'm telling you guys, I pick random cards. I think I've used the most cards and out of this spread than I have other months. And by most cards, I mean deck variation, because I wanted more variation of cards for you guys to get more specific. So it is what it is. We got the Eight of Cups again for another reading. So this is saying that you're moving on to a better place financially. We know that the Eight of Cups is all about leaving the past behind. You're no longer in the same place financially that you once were, or you are at least moving to go to a different area, right? You're like, I can't stay here anymore. I need to go to a place where there is more harmony. I need to walk away from this situation. It's about emotional maturity and self-respect. And so now you're making better choices that reflect a emotionally mature version of yourself, and is one that is respecting who you are and your nature. So it's less impulse buying if you do that, less making financial decisions that make you uncomfortable. You know, for example, like being out with friends and you're having fun, you're having a blast, and you're like, oh my gosh, just a few more drinks, let's tear it up. And instead of doing that, you know, if you're in your 20s or something like that, I guess people do that in their 30s too. You're like, actually, my bank account, you know, the way my bank account is set up, actually, let me not do that. Like, it's a more emotionally evolved decision instead of more leaning into the impulsive decisions. So you're leaving behind financial habits or behaviors, or at least you're starting to, this month, that just don't serve you anymore. You're like, I don't need to go to every which thing. And it's actually interesting because I remember I got the Seven of Cups for a financial aspect one month. And let me see if I can make this quick because I don't want to take all day. And the Seven of Cups just meant I was making a lot of different financial choices that I didn't typically make. So it was more so a bit of experimentation, as well as just being thrown into scenarios that weren't particularly, all of them weren't my best financial decisions. Okay, I'm going to say that. However, some of them were good. Some of them were good. Some of them were something that were a valuable investment. But when we get to the Eight of Cups, you don't have to do that experimentation. And so you're already in a place, or you're moving towards a place where you're like, okay, I've already experienced X, Y, and Z thing, and I know this is not a good investment and this thing is, right? So you have that experience. You have learned from those behaviors. You have a deeper understanding of what can bring you financial fulfillment and what makes you comfortable to spend financially. This is about emotional security when it comes to finances. So you no longer feel like I am making financial decisions that make me uncomfortable, or that put me in compromising positions, or just really weren't my best bet. I will say I do like the cups when it comes to financial decisions, because to me the cups are more so about personal choices. They're not necessarily like you're out in the muck, like for real. Like, it's not Five of Pentacles where it's like really showing that things are really tough. It's showing that things actually may be more of a mental barrier than actual, you know, what your income is or your ability to gain more resources, you know. So that's why I say I like to see the cups. So even like if you were in a bad financial place currently, the cups are kind of showing that, yeah, you can make different choices and that can change in a few weeks or months. So that's why I like to see the cups. And so to me, it shows that you're changing your financial situation, and whatever habits that you had that weren't serving you, that weren't benefiting you, that weren't in alignment to you, you're like, I don't feel the need to do that anymore. This can also represent detaching a little bit from money. So short shorter, even another short story. The financial market is, stock market in particular, is controlled by how people feel, right? When Donald Trump started doing all the different tariffs, people weren't feeling too great. So that stock market went all the way down in April. People were losing millions, thousands, hundreds, whatever. They were losing money. But then when people started to see that pullback on the tariffs, the financial market went up. And I mention this story is because when those financial markets go down, a lot of people, they start calling the financial advisors. They're like, I got to pull my money out of the market. There's a lot of fear. And so their financial decisions get ruled by their fear. They get ruled by their emotions. And so when we have this Eight of Cups here, and it shows a bit of more of a detachment, it shows that you are less likely to be making choices based off of your emotions this month. So just want to throw that out there. And the purchases and things that you make are more aligned with who you are spiritually, with where you would like to go. They're more aligned with your goals. Wow, I just realized the connection between the Eight of Cups and the moon and the in the 10th house and Cancer in the 10th house. You are financially and emotionally aligning with your goals, and your finances are a part of that journey. They're part of that story of that emotional alignment with your goals. You're like, I need to make decisions, not even just financially, just decisions in general, because I'm reading this as the second house from an astrological perspective. This is Astro-Tarot research. You're making decisions based off of how you can achieve your goals. You're reevaluating what is a valuable choice to you, what makes the most sense to you on your journey, and how you can align yourself. So that's what I want to say here when it comes to that, because what you value is going to affect your choices. And I love that we have the Hierophant or the Pope on this card, because that connects to the second house as well. And so it shows that you're standing strong in your principles this month. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that card in a bit. Standing strong in your principles and learning. And so I also read this card as self-esteem and a little bit of family. So if you have a little bit of like family drama, this is moving away from that. If you have, if you have a certain lifestyle, because this is also what you eat, what you consume, you're making some changes to that. Even if it's like some sort of habit, like vaping or something along the lines of that, that's like, oh, I kind of want to move away from that. Or if you're like, oh, I would like to drink less wine, I'm moving away from that. Anything that you consume or like put into your body, you're making changes in that area this month, or that's a possibility for some of you. I'm not going to say this is 100% for everyone. This is a general reading. I got to remind people sometimes, because some people say like, oh no, this is not me. And I'm like, yeah, it's because it's for everyone. So, yeah, you may be moving away from that, some of you. And then, like I said, for the self-esteem, it's coming to a better place. Back to that story of when I've gotten the Seven of Cups to represent, where I was at in terms of like finances and self-esteem. There was a lot of confusion that month. Like I felt like some days I just felt like really bad about myself, and then other days I felt really great, over the moon. I felt like, I was just that girl. But I was just going back and forth with that this month. And then I was also concerned not only with how I was viewing myself, but how other people view me, which is not typical for me. Normally, I'm just like, I like me, and that's enough. But that month, it just felt like, should I base my self-esteem on this thing? Should I base my self-esteem on that thing? Very Seven of Cups type of energy. And depending on where I was deciding to base my self-esteem on, that was causing a flux in how I felt about myself. Not my norm, but like I said, I was in a very emotionally turbulent space that time. So with the Eight of Cups, as I mentioned before, you're detaching from that. You're like, I'm no longer basing my self-esteem on this thing or that thing or what this person thinks or what or this accolade or whatever the case may be. I am more focusing on what feels right for me. And that's all I need. Very much in line with this Nine of Pentacles, Nine of Wands combination here. You are focusing on what truly intrinsically matters. Are you aligning with yourself spiritually? Are you on track to where you feel like you should be going? And that's going to be determining your self-esteem. So when we get to this Justice card for balance, the first thing I think about is there could be some new contracts that you're signing. Maybe you get a new job and you have to sign a contract, or maybe there's a renegotiation of a contract, or some policy changes at work this can possibly relate to as well when we have Justice card here. And then worst case scenario, there's some legal situations going on at work and you need a lawyer, but hopefully that's not the case. Justice card can also represent, justice is served, right? There's more balance within the work environment. If you felt things were a little bit out of whack, now things are moving to a place where it doesn't feel so one way or the other, which is very interesting because we do have this moon in the 10th house, and that's definitely showing a lot of different changes at work. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there were some transformations happening here that could allow you guys to have more balance. And like I said, this is like bringing work home into the workspace. So maybe it's just a little bit more work-life balance, instead of things being like go, go, go all the time. Like Justice connected to Libra, so opposite Libra is Aries. So Aries is like go, go, go. It's more so like, hey, you guys can take a 15-minute break. It's okay to go on a 10-minute walk. Like, it's okay to, socialize a little bit and then get back to work, right? So there's that aspect of what could be possibly going on at work. And the Justice card is very sociable card, very chatty card, very communicative. So I would not expect a quiet work environment. Just a lot of different communications. Maybe you even, like, depending on your field, you get a new client and that involves having to, create a new communication plan, a new project, a new task or assignment that you have to do where the communication is a little bit more intensive or increased. I wouldn't say intense because, like I said, this is more of a balance card, but you just might find yourself having to have more conversations or a few more meetings or even just reducing some meetings. It depends on how things are, right? If things have been very relaxed at work, then yeah, this is an increase of work. So we're going to increase that a little bit. But if things have been very, very busy, we're pulling it back and we're creating more balance, right? It's going to depend on that scenario and what you're in. But I have found the Justice card to represent having more guidance, having better structures, having more communication between leadership and employees. This to me is what I have seen with the Justice card. And then if there have been anything that's been like out of whack or unfair, or maybe even a situation with a coworker that you felt like, wow, this person is out to get me. Well, justice is served, like it's representing that person is going to get what's coming for them. The thing about the Justice card is it's like what you put in is what you get out. So if you have been putting in the work at your job and doing what you need to do, then people will appreciate you for that. They're going to show like, hey, like, thanks for being a great employee. Thanks for providing that support. Thanks for guiding me through this. Thanks for helping with this, etc. Like, you get your props. But if you haven't been up to par, then, the axe is coming down this month. And not just maybe even just for you, because I'm sure you guys are doing a great job. But this might be even just for somebody else, and you notice that around you. You notice people actually having to take accountability for their actions, and that can be happening this month. It's almost like people are being put on trial in the workplace this month. So keep that in mind. As for your reputation comes across as fair. You come across as somebody who is thoughtful, who is considerate towards others. You think about other people's perspectives. This is also a great time to market yourself if you are in the process of looking for a new job position. Sorry for the camera cut off, astronauts. But as I was saying, if you're looking for a new job position or clientele, this month would be like a great month to do so, or a great month that it's happening in, for example. You could really feel as though you are having a strong sense of support. And this is for those who are like self-employed. Strong sense of support from your clients. And it's really about creating mutually beneficial relationships. And you may even think, like, for some of you who are more self-employed, or I mean, this could be for resumes too if you're not self-employed, but it's really about like marketing yourself and transforming your brand. So this could be like a redoing of a resume, or if you're self-employed, you're thinking about redoing your brand, changing the letters, or something along the lines of that. There's so many things associated with a brand. So this is about transforming or even changing that to be more aligned with where you currently are. And I do want to say, when we have this moon in the 10th house, this does show like taking an emotional attachment to work, which is like I'm taking pride in my work, which is also reflected in this Nine of Wands, Nine of Pentacles card. And really it does show a lot of visibility when it comes to your emotions at work. Like people can see the emotions that you are going through currently. And it can also represent that somehow your family might affect your public image for this month, or even particularly if you're married or within a relationship or a partnership, that can affect your public image this month as well. So let that be known. But yeah, you're looked at generally as somebody who is fair, who's balanced, who has clear communications and boundaries, and that you're able to make strong, logical decisions, okay? And I wouldn't even be surprised if you had like a performance review this month, or if you're being like watched and, you know, judged on your actions a little bit more closely this month. That can happen, you know, that can happen, and that can come to the light. But, you know, whatever the case may be, that is what's going on when it comes to work this month. For the most part, people are viewing you as trustworthy. Then we have the Oracle of Raindrops Sensitivity. And this is for the love pile. And I read love as the 5th house. So it's like people you love, things that you love doing, free time. And when it comes to this, it seems as though you are very much in touch with your emotions this month. No surprise with the moon in Cancer. This Oracle of Raindrops Sensitivity is showing that you might even be thinking of like honing more of your intuitive, psychic type of abilities this month during your free time. Maybe you're trying to get more in touch with yourself. Maybe you are trying to lean a little bit more into your spiritual side. And, you know, now there's always a good time to do that. You know, I'm a tarot reader, so I'm always going to say, great job. I'm glad you're doing that. And this can also just be reflecting on past situations, future situations, doesn't really matter, but it's really just allowing your emotional landscape to grow, allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to be aligned with your true self and your emotions. You're not hiding that. That is very, very clear this month. Even if you think you're hiding it, people see it. Your family sees it, is what I'm seeing here. I think that it's really showing that you're showing a sense of care for others within your love life. When you say you're being sensitive towards someone, it's like you're caring them, like you are nurturing them, you're catering to their needs. And so you're sensitive to other people's feelings, you're sensitive to what they're going through. You're showing a lot of empathy and care towards others and the people that you love around you this month. And in turn, they might be showing that to you, or maybe it's just one a particular individual, but it represents, you know, emotional openness, vulnerability, romance. If you have someone that you are interested in or that you're in a relationship with, this is a lot of vulnerability that is flowing between the both of you, and really taking time to be considerate of their needs, and them possibly even being considerate of your needs as well. Hopefully things are balanced, like this Libra card here. At least that's what I'm leaning more towards for the majority of you. I think 60% of you, it's or at least 70, will have a more balanced sort of relationship when it comes to the emotional openness and vulnerability. It just shows that you're really showing that tenderness, you're really showing that care towards people that you love, whether that's romantically or whether that's platonically. You have like this open heart this month, and you want to show the people that you care about that you care. You know, you want to show that you value them, that they have a place within your heart, and that they mean something to you. So I really feel like there may be this exchange of care and love, and I love to see that. Now, if you're single, well, you can still have that care and love for your friends and family, but this may also have to do with more self-love, because we do have that Nine of Pentacles card, Nine of Pentacles, Nine of Wands combination card. And so it just shows that you may be catering towards yourself. You're being sensitive towards your own needs. You're not beating yourself up about not being able to do XYZ, or not being at this place in your life, or not having this accomplishment. You're like, no, let me show love for myself. Let me recognize that, hey, I might be going through a hard time and I need a moment to myself, or I need to take a break right now, and that's okay. I'm human. So it's just a sensitivity towards yourself as well. It doesn't really say anything about like meeting anyone new, if you're looking to meet anyone new, but if you do happen to, you know, fall across anyone, this will definitely be a person who is very open about their feelings, somebody who's more than likely going to be a little bit more emotionally evolved this month, someone who is going to be a little bit more balanced. You're not going to be attracting a lot of stoic individuals, I'll say that. And for those of you in relationships, your partner could be opening up just a little bit more to you. So be on the lookout for that. In terms of doing things that you love, doing things that you love, I mean, it really just shows that you're in your zone, you're in your element. You are feeling like really strongly emotionally attached to the things that you love doing. Sometimes we get cards where it shows that one particular month is a little bit uninspiring, or it's not exactly feeling like you want to invest that time. You know, we all have different hobbies and things that we like to do, and sometimes we just don't want to do them. We're just like, I'm bored of this, I don't really want to do that. You know, I'll save this for another time. So you put it off, right? This month, no, you're really actively engaged in the things that bring you a sense of fulfillment. It feels as though there's some sort of new inspiration there. It feels as though you're feeling highly connected to the things that you love doing. You know, I'm a tarot reader here. I cannot stress enough. It's not like every single time I'm sitting down to film, I feel totally inspired to film, right? But there are some months where I'm just like really in my zone, really in my element, some weeks, some days, and I'm just like loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So it's more like that. You just feel more connected to the things that you love doing. And I can name different hobbies. Like maybe you like vlogging, maybe you like reading, maybe you're really into fashion, maybe you're really into art and design, maybe you're really into gaming, whatever the case may be. But it just shows a strong emotional connection to that, and you're feeling a sense of pleasure, happiness, and fulfillment within that this month. So I do absolutely love to see that for you. It means something to you. It carries weight, and it's powerful. It's powerful. And I actually really enjoy seeing you guys being so invested in that. I think that I think that it really aligns with this Chitra energy, because Chitra, even though it's a Mars ruled placement, Chitra is a very sensitive placement. People don't talk about that enough with when it comes to Mars, okay? When it comes to Mars, Mars is a very sensitive planet. They end up getting into these situations where they sort of have to stand up for themselves. But if you do your research, if you're astrology nerd like me, and you look up Mars ruled people, this is Vedic astrology, you'll notice that pattern of them being quite shy and quite meek. Like, you might see them online, you might see them from a distance, but then you have these one-on-one conversations with them, and they are the most sensitive people, right? Who sometimes they have a lot of troubles, but they kind of all have to deal with troubles. It's Mars, right? Mars is the planet of war. So the thing that happens here is that because of their sensitivity, they can be bullied. But anyway, it just goes to show that you are really, really very much so entwined and connected with your feelings. All right? You're feeling things deeper this month. Mars is all about feeling things deeper. Remember, it rules the sign of Scorpio, the house that has some of the deepest, most transformative emotions. That is Mars. Mars is a sensitive little baby, right? They have those deep emotions. And so when I see this here, this Chitra, this diamond, this star, and I look at Chitra people, one thing I notice about them is, and I see this a lot with a lot of Mars ruled people, is this reflection on the past and this connection to family. It's like, I want my family there around me. I want to hold on to my memories. I don't want to forget the times that we had, whether that's good or bad. It's almost like Mars ruled people, out of all the placements I've seen, really honor their story. They really honor where they come from. And I say by that because they try to capture these moments. They try to capture these moments where they're like, I need to hold this with me. I need to focus on this thing. Like, I don't want to let go of the memories of the people that I love and I cherish the most. So I feel like this month is really a month about creating beautiful memories. Don't know why I'm getting all sentimental, but I guess it's that Mars ruled energy, and that's where it's coming from. Chitra is, though, I will say, it's a little bit like outlandish. There's this energy to it where they can be kind of, what's the word? Like a little bit of an instigator. And so if you're not over here, pestering people or poking at them or prodding at the holes and things, because sometimes Chitra just represents, I'm poking holes in your story. Like, I'm calling out your bluff. I'm making sure that you are being held accountable. If you're not doing that, then this can just be like, you know what? I just feel like stirring the flames. I feel like doing that. I feel like just stirring the pot because I want something interesting to happen. But I really feel like this is more so like a stand up for yourself energy, just looking at the overall cards. This is more of a stand up for yourself energy. This is more of like, I'm creating the memories energy. This is more of a, I'm working on building stronger confidence within myself. And I love how it's called the Brilliant One, because not only does that represent their ability to be a little bit more creative, to stand out, to be like this daredevil energy. I think Doja Cat may have a Chitra placement. And I was just listening to her song Demons, right? Where she says, how do my demons look now that they got you shook? Where she's basically acknowledging all of her flaws or all of her characteristics, and calling out her haters, our critics, and saying, like, this is me, flaws and all. I'm successful still. What are you going to do about it? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, being this person made me successful. So it can even just be about like ownership of your own flaws. That's not the direction I was going in. There was something else I was wanting to say, but I was going with the Brilliant One. The Brilliant One, it's like you're shining bright. Like you are stepping into the limelight, and you're not going to let people push you down or criticize you into oblivion, to shrink yourself, right? This is like, I'm gonna shine no matter what. Kim Kardashian, I think, has a Chitra placement as well, right? It's like, despite the criticisms, despite all that feedback, and they have, you know, she has a ton of it. It's like, I'm still gonna come up and I'm still gonna own it, right? She got famous for a certain thing, I can't say on YouTube, and instead of kind of like shying away from it, you know, she ended up creating this TV and this empire based off of that. Like, right? That's wild. That's Chitra energy. So if you run into a situation where you find that others may be trying to embarrass you or pull you down or poke at your flaws, own them. Like, I feel like you will be doing that this month. You're like, and okay, I have this flaw, and what? Right? And I love how on the card here, it's reiterating my point that I said about Mars. I love these cards. Whoever made them is like, they really know their stuff. Soft, mild, tender. Very Chitra. Like I said, they come across as like these fierce, don't stand up to me, don't push me down, don't take me on type of energies. But they're big boohoo criers. You know what I mean? I mean, even Kim Kardashian, she's known for her cry because it's so funny. But they are known for that. They get known for that. And but despite all of that, they still step into their power, or they should, because they are incredible and inspiring and really amazing. And I feel as though you're going to make sure people know that you're amazing. You're going to make sure that people acknowledge your genius. And that's the other thing I want to say about Chitra. The Mars ruled placements, out of all of the placements, Mars ruled, and I think like certain combinations of like Mercury and Mars come together, create people who are known for having high IQs in a sense, particularly Megashira. Mars is like first ruled placement. Makes sense. It's in the sign of Gemini. They're known for their intelligence and their capabilities to be highly intelligent. In fact, it's actually funny because they might downplay their intelligence and upplay some other characteristics of them. So people might look at them one way, but then they surprise people with their brilliance. And that may be something you're doing this month. You might be surprising people with your intellect, with your brilliance, with your strategy, with your capability. People may underestimate your smarts this month, your ability to be strategic, to stand out, to accomplish your goals. And you're just going to prove them wrong. Not that you're even trying to prove them wrong, which is funny. Because your energy this month is very self-directed. So by default, you just end up proving them wrong. Being skilled, being thoughtful, focusing on the things that you want to accomplish, being someone who pulls themselves up, I guess they say, by their bootstraps, and making sure that you are someone who is stepping into the light, stepping into your brilliance, stepping into your sense of stardom, right? And there may be some new opportunities for jobs or relationships, or like I said, contracts earlier, or negotiations, or even just severing ties with relationships that don't work for you, contracts don't work for you, jobs that don't work for you, responsibilities that don't work for you. Like that could be a severance of that as well going on this month when we have Chitra. I do see a lot of focus when it comes to being very goal and career oriented. That is going on. Keep that in mind. Chitra is very much a highly ambitious card. It's ruled by Mars. It's ruled by Mars. I don't know what else to tell you. Mars is the planet of willpower and ambition. So I see that this month. The Hierophant is obviously representing that knowledge that you're gaining. It's representing learning some strong lessons. It's representing standing strong on your principles, not backing down, being someone who is going to make sure that you're enforcing the rules, that you are guiding yourself to a place that is aligned with your true self and your true values, and you're really valuing yourself this month. And it's interesting because the Hierophant as a month does show a lot of structure, does show a lot of routine going on here for this month, even though there's still a little bit of unpredictability with this moon and 10th house energy. For the most part, the month is pretty structured. This card is over here representing the general vibe that's like, okay, I am building a community, I'm aligning myself with my goals, I'm recognizing my value, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm teaching, I'm giving advice to others, and I am ensuring that I am carrying myself with the principles that I have chosen that matter to me. Okay? That is the complete essence of that Hierophant card going on there. So I do want to say that, and there could be a focus, like I said, on spreading messages to others of kindness, fulfillment, whatever principles that you have. You might find yourself spreading that to other people. And this, as I already mentioned before, that you may feel very intuitive and feeling as though that is guiding you throughout this month. And this can also represent just having very important conversations and using your voice. You may feel like this is a lot of structure, tradition, rules that you may have to follow this month, a lot of bureaucracy, dealing with red tape, feeling as though you are being providing mentorship, you're being provided guidance, or even doing that for others. The Hierophant can just represent people are coming to you for your expertise, or you're offering that. I remember I got the Hierophant for a week, and that's definitely been the case. People wanted my opinions on certain things, my thoughts, and I was like, I don't know anything about this, like, or at least I felt that way. But I mean, obviously I had some experience with what the things that they were talking about. I'm not going to go into details, but so you may see that a lot of that is happening this month, but it's overall a lot of aligning yourself spiritually, establishing some rules, some new habits, some grounding practices on how you wish to move about. There's a system followed this month, and this can also be a month of just having a lot of family time as well, or spending time with whatever community that you like to spend time with. So that is what I have for you, pile number 3. Your reading was very long. Sorry for all of the camera dying. It kept overheating, shockingly enough, even though it's pretty cold in my room. But that's what happens. That's what happens. And hopefully this resonates. Feel free to choose a new pile if it doesn't. I go live every weekend. Times posted on the community tab by Eastern Standard Time. I do pop-ups during the week. If you want a private reading, get a private reading. I would love to see you there. And I'll see you next time. Au revoir. Hey, pal number 4. Let's get started on August 2025. We have this card to represent where you currently are and a little bit of the vibes of this month too. We have this card for finances, the 6 of Swords. We have the Wheel of Fortune for career. We have the 4 of Raindrops for love, for people you love, things you love to do. And we have the Hermit for a general vibe for this month. And we have Brevity. We also have our Astro dice here. So let's get into these Astro dice. We have Gemini with Sun in the 11th house. All right. Gemini, Sun in the 11th house. So we know the focus becomes about friendships, gains from work, possibly older siblings. Not even just gains from work, just gains from your goals in general. Wishes, dreams come true, social media, real estate, anything to do with making big money, networking. And that becomes obviously a theme for this month. When the Sun's in the 11th house, that means like your soul, your heart, your purpose becomes filled with these ideas, filled with inspiration. The 11th house is one of those houses that's all about revolution and transformation and change and futurism. And so you may even be looking at different ways that you can transform your skills, because this is Gemini in this sign. Transform your mind, thinking of different ideas, being inspired. Sun is interesting though when it comes to friends and things along the lines of that, because on one hand, it can give you a lot of people who maybe want to reach out, be your friend, some really joyous moments. But the sun in Vedic astrology in particular is known for being half malefic. And so anything it's touching, it burns a bit. Like when you have the sun in the fourth house, it can create a lot of fights in the family. It can create a lot of, or just restlessness, right? Like you're like, oh, home is so comfortable, but I actually want to move away from it. I actually want to go away. Same with the 11th house, right? It's like, oh, I love spending time with my friends. But then you have days where you're like, oh, please leave me alone. Or it can create fights. Worst case scenario, right? So keep that in mind. And I think that aligns too, because we got this 4 of raindrops when it comes to people you love. And to me, if we're talking about friendships and people you love being your friends, this is like, hey, I love you guys to death, but this month, please leave me alone. Like, leave me alone. Or just maybe you have some weeks or days that are like that. You're just like, I need time for me. And it's really adding up with this Hermit. I love the flow of this pile. This pile is just everything so easily connected, where you're really, really spending time to contemplate and reflect. We have the sun in the 11th house, as I was talking about, higher minds, higher ideals, focusing on building momentum, making your dreams come true, getting that wish fulfillment. The sun in the 11th house generally can connect to having gains of recognition, accolades. Sun is connected to education as well. So sun in the 11th house can represent having some sort of certificate, some sort of degree, or like working towards that, considering it, whatever is connected for you, whether that be an unofficial degree or something official. It can be about like, hey, I'm getting this opportunity to learn something, to up level. This can also represent, I don't know if it's like technically gains of money, but it can be if it's more so, if it's less corporate, you know what I mean? Because sun is like creativity. It's about like not working a particular 9 to 5. It would represent something that is a little bit less mainstream, maybe starting your own business, especially with Gemini. So there can be gains in that area if you have a side hustle, if you have a side biz, if you have not a side business, if you have your own business, if you sell on Etsy, if you sell on Amazon, whatever, like this could be gains in those areas, particularly from work with the sun in the 11th house. That's more so of a sign of appreciation, or even it could be promotion, but it's not necessarily a significant boost in money. I'll say that. The sun is a simplistic planet, and it's not like it doesn't have the ability to gain lots of resources. In fact, I think Uttar Vaguni is a good placement for gaining some resources through connections, but it's not necessarily known for that. It's more so known for the reputation, for the shining, like people see you. So you're being seen this month, or even recognized by your friends, even if you need some space away to just contemplate, to be by yourself. And this can also connect to that this month you're really focusing on building a network, making sure that you are meeting the right people who can help you achieve your goals, whether that be in real life or, you know, this day and age, a lot of us use the internet to find, you know, gurus and things along the lines of that. For example, I'm in project management. So when I was studying for the PMP, I went online to look up people who could help me learn how to pass it. That's very sun in 11th house. Like I'm looking for someone who can help me gain momentum or gain some sort of accolades in my career, and I'm doing it in a social media way. So that's something as an example when it comes to that. So be on the lookout for that type of energy going into this month, as well as if you have some sort of older sibling, you know, some things could be going on for them. The sun kind of shines a light in this area. It could also just bring about more information and more insights, and so you could potentially have a different perspective on your sibling or learn something about them, or even they could be celebrating something within themselves. So keep that in mind. When we begin this month with the Ten of Cups on the Shuffle Tarot deck, it's a combination of the Ten of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles here. So to me, it shows like you're in a really great place. Like you have more than likely reached some sort of fulfillment in some area of your life. The cards aren't super specific, but if we read this in a way as if the Nine of Pentacles was before it, or the Nine of Cups was before it, that represents reaching some sort of independence. Possibly, maybe you've just come out of a place where you've boosted your financial decisions, or maybe you even just decided to go a more independent route. Like, I've seen a lot of stories lately of people, you know, quitting their corporate jobs and going in a more independent route and being more focused on entrepreneurship. If that's not the case, well, then this represents just maybe you've hit some financial goal, some emotional goal in your life where you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I achieved that. Time to celebrate, time to relax a little bit, time to, you know, enjoy more of the fruits of my labor, but then I'm doing it with other people. I'm sharing, we're building a community. It shows a lot of different support, particularly from family members with the tens. Both of the tens connect a little bit more to family than friendship, but it can be friendship. And it just feels as though you're in a place where things are good. And if they aren't good right now as you're reading it, trust and believe, coming the beginning of this month in August, you'll have a different insight. But it also shows that you're moving on to your next goals, which aligns perfectly with that Sun in the 11th house in Gemini, right? You're thinking more towards the future and what can be accomplished next, and your mind is on these higher ideals. So this 10 of Cups, 10 of Pentacles energy is showing that you're entering this month, or maybe even you're going through this month with this mindset of how you can get to that next level. Maybe you feel as though you have a lot of good things going in your life, but maybe there's one particular area that you feel like, oh, maybe this could use some improvements. I love seeing the 10 of Cups and the 10 of Pentacles because I often get these cards to represent, one, spending time with your family, spending time at home, being comfortable within your home, feeling safe, feeling secure, not even just like, oh, I live in a safe neighborhood, but more so just emotionally and physically secure, having moments of happiness that you can revel in, and as well as just feeling a little bit more at peace. So you may be entering the month with this mindset, even if you're not currently in this place as you're watching this now. Keep that in mind. Trust me, things can change within a week or a few days. So you never know. But when we're talking about finances here, and we're talking about this Six of Swords, to me, maybe this part of this area of improvement. That, and as well as the love area, but we'll get to that in a second. Six of Swords represents that you're moving to a better place financially. That is what the Six of Swords is all about. I am going towards a new direction that is less rocky waters, less chaotic, less me being in the struggle, less me not having a concrete plan for my future, less me being reactive to financial moments. These things happen, right? Like your car breaks down, you've got to fix it. That's a financial expense. Oh my goodness, you fall and get injured, you have to go to the hospital, and that's a financial expense. you have to pay for a lawyer because, you know, you have issues with your landlord and they won't give you back your deposit, and that's an expense. So all of these unexpected expenses may have happened towards you in the past, and now you're in a place, 10 of Cups, 10 of Pentacles, where you're like, okay, there's finally a little bit more stability around me, and so now I can focus on improving my finances even more, or getting to a place that is significantly better than where I was. I love the Six of Swords because, you know, I've gotten it plenty of times to represent situations in my life. And particularly, I think I've gotten it for school where, you know, in the beginning, things were just a little bit rough. It just felt like a rough start because, you know, I hadn't been in school for so long. And obviously I pulled the Six of Swords to just say, okay, where are things going? And yes, things did eventually get better. Like I got into a little bit more of a rhythm. And it's not to say everything is like fine and dandy and, you know, everything in that area is perfect, but I can look back and realistically say, yes, I feel more confident, like I have a better handle on things, and it's in a better place. And financially, that's what you'll be going through this month. You feel like you're having a better handle on your financial situation. You feel as though you are moving in the right direction. You've gotten into a rhythm that is leading you towards a better place where you can build towards a more stable future, where you don't have to worry about some financial expense, curveball that will deeply affect you financially. You don't have to stress as much about, you know, certain debts or loans. You're like, okay, I have a plan for this and I'm moving towards it steadily, kind of like how this person has this stick in the water and they're slowly, you know, what do you call it? Weighing it, swinging it. They're slowly treading through the water with this stick and they're moving in the right direction. And that's you. Slowly, like if you're paying down credit card debts, slowly paying that down. If you're paying back loans, slowly paying that down. If you're looking for a new job that can potentially make you more money, you're slowly going and moving towards it. You're like, okay, that method didn't work. That resume didn't work. This job wasn't for me. But you keep moving until you find the right rhythm or the right job, the right amount of money that is best for you, right? And that's what's happening here. Similarly to your self-esteem, it's actually really good here because I feel as though since we have this 10 of Cups, 10 of Pentacles combination, it shows that you're starting to, maybe not starting is the best word, but you've gotten to a place where you're feeling better about yourself. You know, you feel as though you have accomplished a few things. You feel as though you're in a good emotional state to tackle things. Maybe you feel healed or feel as though you have a more positive mindset. And you're like, yeah, there's still maybe some areas on my self-esteem I beat myself up on about, like, oh my gosh, I still beat myself up about my nose or, you know, my hips, or like, oh my goodness, my diet or something like that. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to choose to be less hard on myself because, you know, sometimes we get into a place where we just nitpick everything and we're like, why aren't we perfect? Da, 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 da. Oh my goodness. I had a burger this day, then I had some pizza the next day, and oh no, I shouldn't have done that. Right. But now you're just like, you know, I'm in a better place. For the most part, I'm making better decisions for my health and what I consume. And I should let you guys know, if you're new to my channel, I'm reading this from an astrological perspective. So this would be like second house, right? And second house is what you consume, as well as your financial situation, as well as your self-esteem and what you value, and family as well. So if you are also in some sort of issues or having some sort of troubles with family, or maybe your family was just in a rough situation, this is you guys coming out of that situation and moving towards that better place. All right. So I do want you to know that. Also, I want to say with Sun and Gemini, that's almost as if it's shining a light on your communication. And so there's a lot of learning to do in that area of how you communicate. And it could be in various different areas. We communicate in so many different ways. So for example, I remember getting like something like a sun in Gemini or moon in Gemini, whatever that case may be. And that would just represent me redoing like a resume and saying, okay, does this actually communicate value, right? And so when you have the sun in the sign of Gemini, it's like saying, oh, I'm refreshing this. One thing about the sun is it represents taking something that was like old and kind of crusty and, you know, shining it up a bit. And so this is like I'm shining up my communication skills. The reason I mentioned this is because the second house also rules your voice and how you sound and how you may come across. So it's like not what you say, but how you say it, right? And so how you may be saying things in terms of your communication style, it's improving, right? You know, maybe people were perceiving how you sound to be in a way that you did not mean to come across, and that is changing and transforming this month, and now the communication gets smoother. People are understanding a little bit more clearly what you're trying to communicate, or even the intention behind it. So I do want to throw that in there for this month. But let's move to the area of career, as I already mentioned. But just to summarize, self-esteem is getting better. You are being less hard on yourself when it comes to the habits, things that you might be consuming, and, you know, ingesting into your body, and you may be coming into a new rhythm in that area as well. And as well as the financial situation is improving. It's not like super duper amazing, but you're like, yeah, I see that things are transforming for the better. You might be making more money, you might be saving more money, you might be paying loans or credits down. You might even just feel like you're making progress with any job hunting or a business you might have. So, to the 10th house, Wheel of Fortune. I've gotten this card for career, and that particular month, I'll say things generally sort of shifted towards the better, at least for a moment in time. And I'll say this month is particularly a lot better in terms of the environment for the career. And I love how we have all of these like symbolisms of like luck and wish fulfillment. You know, we have dice. You know, people have those lucky dice. Feather. You know, feather I usually get for like wishes and things along the lines of that. But some people have lucky feathers. 4-leaf clover, horseshoe. These things are like connected to luck as well. And so there's a change in your luck. Generally, Wheel of Fortune cycles is representing towards the better. And it also can represent a turning point as well. And I do want to emphasize that not only was that month a change for the better, but it also became a turning point at that particular job. You know, turning point in terms of it became one of those deciding factors as to whether I wanted to stay there or not. It was definitely that turning point in like the story of that job. You know what a turning point is in that movie, in a movie, when things start to change, things start to develop, and either things go in a good direction or things go in a worse direction, and maybe they go in a good direction for a while, and then certain things are being revealed, and then the character has to overcome these obstacles, right? You know, the turning point. And so this month actually can be a turning point in your job where you look back years later, you're like, yeah, that thing set everything in motion. That was the moment where I was starting to get different projects or different assignments that would lead to my promotion. Or that was the month where my supervisor, you know, crossed the line and they were inappropriate with me or rude to me. And that was what started the cycle of me starting to move forward and get out of that job. You know, it's just like a turning point is happening this month in terms of that. But generally the vibe for the Wheel of Fortune is a little bit more positive, is what I want to emphasize. And so you may feel like certain aspects of your job are a lot smoother or going better in a direction that you want it to be, similar to how the Six of Swords is. This can feel as though work is more accommodating, that you have more support in this area, you have more freedoms, because this card is connected to Jupiter as well, and Jupiter is all about liberating and freeing you and getting you out of this place where you're under someone's thumb and someone's telling you what to do. So there's more freedom when it comes to the work environment this month. This doesn't mean that you won't have to, stand up for yourself or fight for it. It's not like passive changes. Well, maybe for some of you. I'll say for about 30% of you, this may be some sort of passive change that you didn't have to influence in any way. But for the most part, I've seen the Wheel of Fortune being something that you particularly will have to influence and set in motion. So there could be a lot of that going on this month. I will say the Wheel of Fortune can turn for the worse, but I just want to emphasize that I've seen it more for the better. Okay, so that is what I want to say there. But expect changes this month, especially changes that can, as I mentioned before, lead to more freedom, lead to you actually going in a different direction that can eventually lead you to somewhere positive. Maybe this is the month where you say, ugh, no more of the corporate world, I'm throwing this away. No more of this type of job, I'm throwing this away. This was the month where that realization happened and you're just like, I've got to go in a completely different direction in terms of my job and my career. This is also a month where you maybe are looked at as someone who is a pillar of change, someone who is bringing the job or the company a new situation that they possibly haven't dealt with before. And this can also represent having a lot of conversations with those in leadership, because it is connected to Jupiter. Jupiter's a very powerful figure card, someone who can bring a lot of blessings into someone's life. And in particular, in terms of a job situation, yeah, that could be a client. If you work for yourself, that can say, okay, you're having a client that is bringing some blessings into your life and you're interacting with them more. But in terms of job, this is like I'm interacting more with those who are in leadership. So that's like HR, that's like your boss, supervisor, supervisors, you know what I mean? And those people have the power to bring more change into your life. So there could be a lot more conversations with these individuals, and that is what I want you to know. Back to this love area, which we have seen here. So I mentioned here with this 10 of Cups, 10 of Pentacles combination that the 4 of Raindrops can actually represent that one thing in your life that you're like, oh, I want this area to be a little bit more satisfactory. And that could have to do with romantic love. Maybe your relationship feels a little stale. Maybe you just feel like you need some more time to yourself away from your partner this month. Maybe you feel as though the relationship doesn't really bring you life anymore. And these are for you who are in a relationship. And you would like some change. You would like some transformation. Maybe just things feel a little bit too predictable, mundane, stable, and you're like, I just want a little bit more fun in this area. Doesn't necessarily mean you want to leave your partner, but you're like, we could switch things up. We have a lot of good things going for us. We have a lot of love in our relationship. We have a lot of stability, but I wouldn't mind a little bit more excitement. This can also represent, if you're single, that you may feel as though you're not meeting the people that you would like to meet. The 4 of Raindrops here shows that, yeah, there are people who would be interested in you, but you're not necessarily interested in those people. That is generally the vibe that I get from the 4 of Raindrops, which is connected essentially to the 4 of Cups. And whenever I see that card, it always annoys me when people say, oh, it's just you ignoring opportunities. It's not just you ignoring opportunities. It's you deciding that you don't want to partake in opportunities that don't particularly interest you. So that is the end. That is the entire vibe of this card romantically. If you're single, yeah, you may have some few people or one or two persons who are interested in you, but you're not in particularly wanting to go in that direction. Maybe they don't excite you. Maybe there isn't a strong attraction. Maybe there isn't a strong emotional connection. But whatever the case may be, you're just like, I'm not interested in that. Like I'm not interested in that person. And that's generally the vibe for this month. You're like, oh man, there's no one around me who really just floats my boat, who brings me excitement, who is thrilling, as someone I really want to get to know. And so the area of love life becomes a little bit less exciting, kind of dull, or maybe you're just going into yourself and you're thinking you're not interested in that area. You're the one who's like, I really just don't really care about love stuff right now. I have other focuses, and it's just not that important for me right now. But this can also represent that during your free time that you feel as though you want a little bit more excitement. You want something change. You want change. You want transformation. You want something different. If you have a hobby, maybe this is like, oh man, I just feel like I do this too much, or I do this a certain way that isn't exciting. Like maybe you're always on the weekend, you paint on canvases and you do watercolors, and you're just like, man, I always do this every weekend. I paint the same thing, I want to switch it up. Or maybe you're just tired of painting in general, you want to switch to a different art medium. But whatever the case may be, it's just showing a little bit of dissatisfaction in the area of how you express yourself, what you do in your free time. You know, this is also like, oh, there's nothing to watch on TV. Everything just may feel very boring, dissatisfactory, uninteresting, or you may even just feel unmotivated or uninspired when it comes to doing the things that you love or doing the things that you normally do within your free time, okay? It just feels as though you're a little bit emotionally withdrawn this month. Or sometimes it's not just like, oh, I have nothing to do with my free time, but maybe you're using your free time to sit, to think, and reflect, because I often get the four of raindrops to represent needing some time to just step away and to pause and to think and reflect on where you are and where you would like to go. It's a lot of introspection and not wanting to be distracted or even just engage in social plans. It just feels as though that's not where you're at mentally or emotionally. It's just time for a reset, time to pause, time to, actually reconnect with what excites you, what fulfills you, what makes you feel good inside. So that's something that can be happening for this month. And I really do think that this is just a time in your life where for this month you're wanting to get out of this place of stagnation, because things may have been too routine for too long, or you just felt as though life isn't where you want to be in terms of excitement, in terms of fun, in terms of fulfillment, because this is just things that you love. So this can definitely represent a lot of like doom scrolling too as well, because the mind just becomes, what do you call it? Just an adventurer, just kind of wandering off into its own path without having a strong focus, right? So that's what the energy's like. It's kind of meh. So keep that in mind for this month, and that can apply to just like friendships as well. Maybe you're just not interested, like your friends invite you out somewhere and you're like, I kind of want to stay in, right? And it kind of fits with this hermit vibe, right? We have the hermit card for this month, and we all know that the hermit is just this card of reflection, this card of withdrawing, this card of disengaging with the world. Like you just need to step back and reflect. And it's really painting a full picture of how the month of August will be for you. You want to focus on yourself. You want to focus on bringing more fulfillment and joy into your everyday life. And sometimes we need to step back to do that. And I feel as though that is the general vibe for this month. There's certain areas in your life that have a lot of happiness and have a lot of joy and have a lot of fulfillment. But there's other areas that you just know could improve or can go in a different direction. And you're looking within to yourself maybe to decide what this is. For example, I was watching this podcast and someone posed a question like, let's say you meet your financial goal of whatever. I think it's like $50 million. Sorry, guys. I'm a little tired. Let's say you meet your financial goal of $50 million. What will you do with your free time? And it was very interesting because it was like they couldn't answer the question. They didn't realize who they were without the work that they do. Some people work because they love to work. That's their connection to life. That's their purpose. A lot of people work just to survive, and work gets in the way of their free time. And so, not saying that this is particularly your issue, but an issue like that would cause a solution to that would be a lot of inner reflection. And so there may be some areas in your life that you're dissatisfied in, or you're just not sure what could possibly bridge the gap between dissatisfaction and fulfillment. And so you are doing the inner work to allow yourself to have a deeper understanding of what it is that you need and what's the direction that you need to go in. This month is a month of understanding your priorities, your goals, your path, and making sure you're not just living life on autopilot. It's a time where you feel like you need to be alone, where you need to dispel of all the distractions, and you need to just feel more grounded. Okay, this is exactly what this is, and it aligns perfectly with this Four of Cups, right? Where you're just like, I need to disengage in certain areas. I need to pull away from friends or family for a little bit. I just need some time to myself to go inward. And some people need more time than others, right? So I would imagine that, this is a month of essentially just protecting your peace in a way, reconnecting with your own voice, understanding your inner voice, just quieting out all of the noise and letting yourself guide you. Okay, being your own guide. I feel as though with the Hermit as well, there's also room to guide others. There is a pathway where people may feel that I should say, there's various different pathways. And people may be coming to you to guide them on their own journey because they feel like you have certain experience in certain areas, or maybe you've had certain successes in certain areas, or maybe you just have a lot of wisdom in general and you carry yourself as someone who is very thoughtful. And so they're seeking you out to engage with you, to have a better understanding of what you may think of their situation or their path. And it's your place, or if you desire to this month, to lend your voice to them, because the Hermit, he guides others to the dark as well as he guides himself, right? Very, very reflective card. Also can represent that you just have a lot of focus on work, because the Hermit connects to Virgo as well. And Virgo is the sign of work, everyday life, conflicts, or just feeling conflicted in a sense. And some people even say that since it connects to the sixth house connects to like dating as well. But I'm not sure about that one. I haven't seen that one come up, but who knows? Maybe there is some reflections when it comes to your love life and wanting to bring more satisfaction into that area, or even creating deeper and more meaningful connections into your life, which is no surprise because we have Revati. So in Vedic astrology, Revati is the last nakshatra, meaning it's like an accumulation point of all the nakshatras. Ultimately, Revati becomes about understanding from a deeper intrinsic level who you are, and also understanding humanity, being the creator of your own universe, not conforming, being someone who is thoughtful and reflective, and someone who, honestly, Revity people guide others as well. You know, I have had people in my life who were Revity, and it's not to say that they're this all wise figure. In fact, they go through many trials and tribulations. But one thing that I see from them is that a lot of them manage to get to this place of higher knowledge, higher wisdom, higher emotional intelligence simply by going within. Whereas others, like me, for example, you know, may need some guidance or may need to have conversations with other people or may have to talk things out and to get to that place. But they have enough inherent intelligence, or a lot of them, not everyone, to have a deeper understanding of people's emotions and why they may react certain ways, or what patterns that they pick up on people's life, because everyone has patterns. There's certain patterns that appear within people's lives. And Revity people are great when it comes to spotting and reflecting those patterns and saying, hey, why is this happening? How can we break this cycle? How can it get to a better place? Why is this person reacting this way? Why do I feel this way? Why am I reacting this way? You know, it's just a lot of emotional intelligence. And so it kind of goes perfectly with this Hermit card when it comes to moving to a deeper place emotionally and being more mature and understanding and having a lot of self-knowledge. So there's that going on. And just from a perspective of what happens when I've seen this Revity card, is it's often a card where you will, if you're on a path that is not aligned with your true purpose, what I've seen Revity do for like the months or weeks that I've pulled the card is it will yank you from that path, or it will make things so treacherous that it will cause you to reject it. And so if you find yourself in a place this month that is just like, oh, goodness, I can't stand this. This is just bad. This is rock bottom. Don't be surprised when you move into a different direction. You know, don't be surprised by the fact that things might get bad before you reject that and go into a different way. That's what I've seen Revity do. And so that could be happening this month. And the reason I say things get bad is because, you know, we're people. If everything's fine and dandy, or things aren't too bad, you know, we kind of get used to it, right? Until things get so bad we can't ignore it, because most people don't want to change, right? But this is a month of change. This is a month of you aligning yourself with something that will bring you happiness. You having faith that there's something beyond, and that you can obtain a life that is bountiful and beautiful to you. And I've seen Revity people reject, especially lately, don't know what's going on, but a lot of Revity people lately reject the sort of 9-to-5 reality or working for some company, and they go a more non-traditional route, which is like, oh, I want to engage with social media. I want to do something creative. I want to make music. I want to be a travel influencer. It's like they decide to create their own path and move in that direction. And I've seen it a lot more lately with Revity people, maybe because Saturn is in the Vedic sign of Pisces, where Revity is. So it's being affected, even if it's a little bit further away. And I think it's currently in Uttara Bhadrapada, which is the nakshatra right before Revity. So it's still being affected. But I see them moving in a different direction that's non-traditional. And remember how I just said Revity is creating your own path. And it's like this month, you're actually moving towards that. And maybe you're reflecting on the longer picture or how you want to do it or whatever the case may be, but I can see that happening. Another thing I see with Revity is the drive, the work, the effort, and it is overwhelming. If I should say so myself, it's like so many things are flying at you in different directions. You know, so many things you need to know, so many problems you have to tackle, so much information flooding you at once, so much work you have to do. Revity is so not what I originally expected when, you know, I began my studies on it, and I figured it would be a little bit more restful, but in actuality, I've seen a lot of like workaholic nature, or just being thrown into the grind, and it being non-stop. And it also helped me understand why Revati people understand that it's better to work smart than work hard, which is what Revati is known for. Their intelligence, their ability to circumvent the system and move around it. And so you'll find a lot of like Mercurial people in general, which is, this is a Mercury ruled nakshatra, to lie a lot. If you ever seen that movie, is it like Sorry to Bother You? Or Sorry to Ask something? What is that movie called? I think it is Sorry to Bother You. Yes, Sorry to Bother You, starring Lakeith Stanfield. And he's a Revati placement. And you see in the beginning of that movie where he is like unemployed. He's looking for a job. And so he starts making up these lies on how accomplished he is and things along the lines of that. And he gets called out for it in the beginning. But then eventually all of that, you know, lying, sweet talking, telling people what they want to hear makes him a great salesman, and he moves up into the corporate world. And it's all about like chasing that success until, you know, you realize, what have you been chasing? This system is broken. This is causing people to lose their morals, right? And Revati placements know that best. And so you may find that you're reflecting a lot more on the system around you and how it is tearing apart the people around you, the world you're in, and displacing empathy, which is something that Revati is all about. Higher knowledge, empathy, connection with others. It all becomes about that. And having an understanding of what's most important. And so this month you're realizing what's the most important to you. You're coming at this from a higher perspective, and you may understand that, or you may even just be more generous and charitable this month and be more understanding of others, is what I want to say. So that is what I have for you. Keep in mind, you know, this may be a month where you may find that you have to find unique ways to problem solve or circumvent certain circumstances, or maybe even just go off in a different direction. So that is what I want to say. And Revati also connects to travels. So this can represent spending your money on traveling. And that's just what could happen this month. But yeah, that's what I want to say. And I will, hopefully this resonates. If not, feel free to choose a new pal or maybe a new reader. Either way, I'm very happy you stopped by. Don't forget, I go live on the weekends. The polls should be back. If you want a private reading, the link is found below. And I will see you next time. Au revoir. Hey pal, number 5. Let's get started on your August 2025. We have Judgment for where you are. The 8 of Swords for finances. We have the 5 of Clouds, Defeat for career. We have the Star card for love, and we have the Page of Wands when it comes to an overall vibe, and we have Ashvini. Also, we have our Astro dice, so let's get into this. Okay, we have the 7th house, Mars in Cancer. Woo, okay. So let's get into the 7th house, Mars in Cancer. I will say Mars is debilitated in Cancer. And the reason that Mars is kind of debilitated in fall, whatever you want to call it, or doesn't like the sign of Cancer, is because Mars is a planet that just likes strategy. It likes to go. It likes to be able to do things without having to contemplate too deeply or go into the emotional realm. Mars is a planet that is heavily associated with kind of like a little bit of deep trauma, I guess, but it represents strong emotions. And so when Mars is in this sign of Cancer, it's restless. It's not to say that Mars can't deal with the emotions, but it's more so like, man, this feels as though we're having all of these conversations about feelings and things along the lines of that. And I just want to go. And if we're going to talk about feelings, I'd rather go deep. I don't want to just talk about them. You know, I want to go to another level. And Cancer doesn't technically do that. So when we have Mars in Cancer, there's a sense of restlessness when it comes to how you're feeling this month. It can feel a little bit more irritable. It can feel as though, you know, things aren't moving fast enough. You know, it's like a soldier treading through water. You know, it's not exactly comfortable when it comes to this month. And also when we have Mars in the 7th house, this can represent maybe not even you just being irritable, but maybe other people kind of acting in a way that is very inconsiderate. Oftentimes when I see the Mars in the 7th house energy, it doesn't really matter the sign placement, but it generally just represents people who are thinking more so about themselves rather than others. They're very self-focused, and so they're not really concerned as to how their actions will affect you or anybody else. And that's obviously not the best type of people you want to interact with, but for the month of August, you may find that to be true. There could be a lot of conflicts with other people, a lot of differing opinions. There can also be this sense of, I want you to do this, and people sort of enforcing their will upon you. There's just a lot of, I guess, conflict and challenges going on when you see Mars in the 7th house. Worst case scenario can be, you know, bullying, you know, or something along the lines of that. I mean, obviously things can get more serious, but generally it's not exactly the compromise planet. And it may even feel as though the decisions that people are making are highly emotional and very impulsive, and they just don't make a lot of sense, okay? And then sometimes this can represent fighting within the home because we have Mars in Cancer. That happens, or just like with neighbors, wherever you live, your landlord, you know, it's a Cancer vibe, so it's like your home. So if you live in an apartment, this can represent, oh, I have beef with the people upstairs, or my landlord won't fix things, I got beef with them, my roommate's being so annoying, you know. That is what this energy is. This can also represent wanting to revisit structures within the work environment. 7th house is also connected to work, career objectives, and things that you do. And so this can represent wanting to transform and change things, because remember that Mars connects to Scorpio, which is a planet of deep transformation. And so you may be pushing to transform things in that environment, within a business, within a contract, and saying, hey, like, I don't really like this contract, I want to raise. I don't really like this contract, let's revisit it if you're going to reclassify my role or something along the lines of that. Or I'm ready to venture off into a new territory career-wise, or I need to bring some changes into this work environment because it just doesn't work for me and I think things will be more efficient this way, right? And so when you try to bring about change and transformation, yeah, it comes with that sense of conflict. I'm not going to avoid it. I'm not going to skate around it. And, you know, maybe you've clicked off at this point, but I do like to be honest when it comes to my readings on this channel and what I've seen for Mars in the 7th house. One thing it is good for is it brings you a lot of courage to stand up for yourself against others. It also can make you very strategic when it comes to maneuvering certain behaviors, or even, you know, if you're prepping for something legally. Mars is really great at that. Keep in mind, Mars is a fighter, and, you know, what do lawyers do? They fight. So when you have Mars in the 7th house, this is like, okay, I have someone who will fight for me, or that I have built a strong case that someone can fight for me. Right, that is what this can go to. If it goes into the legal areas, keep that in mind. So it is really good for, you know, tracking things that could help you potentially win some sort of court battle. if it gets to that type of point. Mars obviously represents severing relationships, and so this can definitely represent some tensions there, or, you know, completely fracturing relationship beyond repair in some cases, or just feeling as though you're at odds with others and things along the lines of that. So I will say this can definitely be a very emotional month, very up and down, and we even see this reflected in this Five of Clouds defeat. So it may just feel as though within the work environment, there isn't a lot of support, there isn't a lot of people on your side. It feels as though you might be pushing towards a change that could be positive. However, people around you don't want this change to occur, or maybe you have some ideas that you're inputting and you've really fought hard for them, but they're being rejected. You know, it's just a tough time. Okay. I'm not saying this whole month is tough, but there are certain aspects of this month that we do need to touch on as I am looking at this spread here. Now, if we go to Judgment, to where you are, I absolutely love this card. This is the Shuffled Tarot deck. And on the Judgment Tarot card in the Shuffled Tarot deck, we have the Devil card instead of like the angel up above and everyone's rising from the dead. I look at this to represent those who are sort of like reflecting on their sins or reflecting on moments of their past, right? And from me, for what I see, I believe that you're entering this month from a place where you're looking at maybe past situations that haven't either gone your way, that have been maybe repeating patterns within your life, whether that's repeating patterns in a relationship, repeating patterns in a work environment. I'm focusing on that because we have this 7th house energy, and that's kind of what it focuses on, one-on-one relationships. And you're kind of saying, okay, enough is enough. It's time for me to revamp this area in my life and break away from those patterns. It's like this month you are facing these dark elements, or a sort of like a dark night of the soul journey, and you're facing them dead on. These parts of you that may be a bit flawed, or parts of you that is prone to certain behaviors or patterns or situation, and you're doing a deep reflection on them. So if it's not a personal flaw or vice or something along the lines of that, then this is like, okay, I might be repeating certain patterns, or I might be, you know, following into certain traps repeatedly, or tackling things the same way. And Judgment card here is like, let's re-examine that. Let's actually take a look at these challenging areas that have been repetitive throughout my life, that seem to be reoccurring. Judgment is this card of, you know, time to forgive, time to refresh, time to go into a new start. And in order to do that, it's like, let's face the sins of my past. Let's face the trauma of my past. Let's face the people who might seem like, oh, I think I might have met this character before. You know, how certain people go through cycles of like, oh goodness, I keep meeting people who are avoidant, right? And so it's like, why am I doing that? And the Judgment card is going to call you to examine that. So you're stepping into this month from this space. And if you're not there now, you probably will be there by, you know, the beginning of this month. You're more than likely going to take the time to do some deep reflection and examination. And this is really great because it's going to allow you to let go of certain things and open you up to a new beginning where you are treading on a healthier and more beautiful path that is more aligned with yourself. And yes, you're doing the hard work this month, but overall it's going to lead you to a better place. I know that because we have this Ashwini card here, and Ashwini is the card of new beginnings. It's a fresh start. It is a new day. It is the first nakshatra in Aries in the Vedic system, and it comes to astrology. And so I know that this is a new beginning happening for you. That it's about being daring, that it's about being bold, that it's about going on, treading new paths that you have never gone before. And so this month is leading you to that. So when we talk about the Eight of Swords, when it comes to finance and self-esteem, and also when it comes to maybe things you even ingest, the Eight of Swords is pretty restrictive. So if we're talking about things that you put into yourself, then this is like, oh, I'm on a diet. I'm restricting the things that I am eating. I'm restricting the things that I'm consuming. And it could be due to misinformation, or it could just be due to your testing and trying things. Sometimes we don't know the things that are affecting our body. Like, let's say, we eat similar meals, or we don't keep track of like what we eat and how it makes us feel. So you're restricting certain things. Like, for example, let's say, I eat pizza one day, the next day I have curry, the next day I have some noodles, and I'm noticing that my stomach is getting a little bit upset. And I'm like, well, was it the curry? Was it the pizza I ate a few days ago? Like, why am I getting a little bit inflamed? Why is my stomach acting this way? And so the Eight of Swords is like, well, let me restrict certain things. Let me restrict the dairy. Or let me restrict flour, or, let me restrict something along the lines of that to figure out what exactly is going on. So that's why this Eight of Swords is kind of like, let's restrict things to dispel the confusion. Let's take a moment to stand still and just get rid of certain things so that I could figure it out. And so that could be something when it comes to like eating habits and consuming and things along the lines of that. Other examples that we have when it comes to finance, the Eight of Swords definitely represents feeling as though you might feel a little bit trapped financially. It may feel as though this month you aren't able to spend the way you would like to spend or do the things that you would like to do. And then sometimes this can represent that you feel like you're trapped in maybe a certain cycle of lack or poverty, or not gaining opportunities, or something along the lines of that. And you're like, I just don't know what to do about it. I've tried this thing, I've tried that thing, and nothing seems to be working. So there's some anxiety when it comes to the financial situation. You're just confused on how you can move forward, or feeling like, can you even move forward? That's what it feels like here. But with the Eight of Swords, what I love about this card is it shows opportunity. This person is blindfolded. They have all these swords around them, but they know that they can, well, they may not know, but they'll get to the point where they know that they can walk out at any point, And so the answer lies, maybe not just within, it could be externally, but the answer is there. There is a way out of your situation, whatever that situation is financially. This could represent, oh, I feel trapped by debt. I feel trapped by loans. I feel trapped by this and that. I feel, I don't feel that sense of abundance when it comes to the financial area. And so I have to restrict the things that I'm buying, or I have to even turn a blind eye to it, can be the Eight of Swords. The Eight of Swords can represent, like, I just don't even want to look at it. Like, I just don't even want to look at my credit card bill right now. I don't even want to look at my spending for this month. I don't want to track it. I want nothing to do with it. I want to close my eyes and ignore it. And so it can feel a little bit like that, but just know that you can definitely find a way out of your financial situation. I'll say this, Mars in the 7th house was a pretty good placement when it came to, when I was looking at money and things along the lines of that and gains. It was a pretty good placement when it came to being able to transform your financial situation. I'm guessing because in Vedic astrology, if Mars is in the 7th house, it's looking at the 2nd house, which would be kind of like this pile here. And so it just means that you'll have to be a little bit more strategic, or put in a little bit more efforts when it comes to the financial situations. You're not going to be able to ignore this for long, because the Eight of Swords goes to the Nine of Swords. So it'll just stress you out if you choose to ignore it. But don't worry, there is a way out. I love seeing swords for financial situations, because it doesn't mean that you're just stuck there and there really is no lack of opportunity. It just means that right now you can't see it, but it is there. Trust and believe. Okay. So, it's surrounded by this Judgment card, which is connected to Pluto, which if you think about Pluto in the 2nd house, which I'm reading this as 2nd house, from an astrology perspective, it can transform your financial situation. And this would be about confronting any sort of financial habits that are not good for you in the long term, or even learning more about the financial situation. I've seen people talk about how Pluto has affected them in their second house. And what it has done is it's caused them to gain, I guess, big amounts of money, or even learn more about finances and learn more about spending and investing and things along the lines of that, so that they can come up from out of their financial situations and troubles. And so I feel like this month, you might even be leaning in towards that. So I do want to keep that in mind. When it comes to self-esteem, similarly, the Eight of Swords doesn't feel super confident, or like you feel as though you can't fully express yourself because it comes with so much backlash. And I'm not putting that on you, because you do have that Mars in the 7th house. So I know that you're probably getting a lot of pushback or criticism with that Mars in the 7th house, that people aren't truly appreciating the things that you have to say or the input that you have to offer. And so I do understand that perspective when it comes to this Eight of Swords, second house financial self-esteem area. It just feels as though people are like beating you down, especially with that card of defeat right next to it. Like no matter how you try to navigate situations, no matter which way you decide to change your method of communication, or how you implement ideas, or how you come forth and try to have a conversation with someone, it feels like it's getting shut down, like your voice, you can't fully use it. And the second house does connect to your voice. So it's like almost like Ariel and the Little Mermaid, like I can't speak. Someone has taken that from me, right? It's that energy behind it. Like I cannot, my voice doesn't carry weight. My voice has no power. Someone has taken away my voice, right? It's that energy. It reminds me in a way of like Saturn in like the 3rd house. If you've ever had like a Saturn in the 3rd house transit, people are very critical about how you structure and how you speak. And there's also going to be a lot of restrictions in how you express yourself and how you speak. A lot of people will try to take over the things that you are putting out there, whether that be essays, emails, communications. Say things this way, not that way. Do things this way, not that way. Could you phrase it this way? Like, I don't really understand the way that you're doing that. Like, it's just a lot of criticism in that way. So I understand the perspective that you might even be coming from, or the place that you're in this month when it comes to expressing yourself and what's on your mind. But don't be afraid. Continue to open up despite all the pushback, because it's going to be worth it in the end. That Mars in the 7th house, like I said, it brings you courage, the courage to stand in front of others, the courage to defend yourself. The courage to stand up for yourself and to have hard conversations and to stand your ground. Feel free to stand your ground this month, even if, it doesn't lean towards the results that you want. It will be transformative for you. It'll make you feel more confident and more courageous. So I understand that perspective, but you may be beating yourself up a lot this month. You may not truly understand how worthy you are, or you may even be questioning it. But trust and believe you are worthy. Don't mind the haters, okay? 5 of Cups, we've touched on it a little bit when it comes to 5 of Clouds, I should say. It's really the 5 of Swords, but we'll read it as the 5 of Clouds. So the 5 of Clouds, when it says here, defeat, it just feels as though your job, your career is not, it's not being fair to you. When I see this here, this is an environment where everyone looks after themselves, similar to how I was saying here. I love when everything connects. Just wish it wasn't connecting in this way and it was a little bit more positive. So, sorry that this is a little bit more of a heavy month, pile number 5. But just know, when we get the 5s, it's a card of transformation. 5s always represent change. And so even if you're in this place for this month where people aren't respecting you, people are looking out for themselves, people are kind of being a little bit more shady and things along the lines of that, your opinion isn't taken into account, you're not getting the raise you deserve. You're not getting the promotion you deserve. People are being very nitpicky. People are starting fights or beefing, or it's like petty drama or gossip. Like, even if that's going on this month, it's not going to last. This 5 of clouds here, like all 5s, it's about change. It's about reaching a point where something has to give. And so when we're talking about this month, we know you're not going to stay in this period of defeat. Your victory is coming, especially since the star is the next card. So there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. You're not going to stay in this place for long. And honestly, it makes sense, especially since we have this Judgment card, devil combination here. It's like you're letting it go of that negative energy. It's like this point feels like a little bit of a breaking point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm out of here. Like, I'm figuring out a way how I can get out of this situation when it comes to my job, when it comes to my career. This can also represent your reputation for this month. And people may feel as though you are a little down and out. Like, you feel as though this is not the environment for you. I think people can tell that you are pretty much out the door. Like, you might be a little checked out. And people will be able to see that in you. They'll see it in your behavior. They'll see it in your work. And they're like, man, this person is just like, they're over it. Like, that's the vibe that you're giving this month. And they can see that you're ready for a change. You're ready to bounce. So I just want to say that. And if you have some sort of business, maybe you are struggling to gain maybe some sort of clientele, maybe some sort of goal that you want to reach in terms of revenue, or if you're marketing yourself, you're like, man, this is just not working the way I want it to work. And so now it's almost like back to the drawing board, and you're going to have to transform the way that you choose to go about, gaining that revenue, gaining client, marketing yourself, making your brand stand out. It's just going to represent that you get to the point where you're experimenting things. It feels as though you're throwing everything at the wall. Things don't transform. They don't change. And you're like, okay, I've got to do something different. And I love that we have this double Mars energy. Like I said, Mars, Ashwini, highly connected since Ashwini is in Aries. And so we know that this month is a month of fights. Like I said, Mars is that planet of fight, effort, courage, overcoming challenges. It's also connected to the Emperor in Tarot. So we know it's about having clear direction, having control, stability, strategizing. And so it's like you're moving in a direction where you want to gain that sense of stability, where you want to gain that sense of power and control, where you want to feel confident. And you're like, it's almost like you're waking up this month to understanding where you currently are and recognizing that this needs to change. This needs to go out the window. You need something different. And this can also represent a change in the physical appearance. Just because if Mars is in the 7th house, then it's looking at the 1st house. And not only that, but Ashwini connects to the 1st house because it is the physical appearance. And so this can represent wanting to transform and change your physical appearance in some sort of way. I did an Ashwini video, and I talk about their uniqueness and their way of expressing themselves and how they typically have some experiences within their childhood that are a little bit unusual. Like, I've seen Ashwini people, they might grow up in environments where it's like survival of the fittest. They might grow up in environments where it's a lot of highly emotional, intelligent people. They may have a lot of like different monks or something in their home. They may grow up in an environment that's like very upper class, where it's like, okay, this person comes from a highly top earning family or something, and they're the child of, rich parents. I've seen that with Ashwini. But either way, it can represent just having some circumstances that can make you feel like you're a little bit of an alien this month, where it's hard to relate to others and their experiences as well. It also represents youthfulness and vitality. And so I love that we got this, especially when it's connected with this Page of Wands here. Because we already know the Page of Wands connects to youthfulness and vitality as well. And so this is why I said it feels like this month you're getting to this breaking point where it's just like no more, and you have this spark ignited inside of you where you're like, I'm ready to push forward and get to the next level. One thing that you should know is the sun is exalted in Ashwini. The sun is your career, it is your soul, it is your heart, it is what brings you, what wakes you up in the morning. It makes you feel passion inside. It's about who you are as an individual. And so Ashwini is like, I'm going to express myself. I'm going to get to the top. I'm going to be ambitious. I'm going to be this go-getter. And you have to know, well, the sun is a star. And so it's almost like you're aligning more to your true self this month. You're feeling like you're coming, it's like this feeling like you're coming out of your shell because people are forcing you to come out of your shell. They put you in this corner and it's either fight or flight. And so I feel like towards the end of this month, you're like, I gotta fight. Like I can't be in this place anymore. I can't be in this Eight of Swords place. I can't be in this defeat place. You're being reignited and you're aligning more to your true self. You have a new sense of momentum, a new sense of courage, at least towards the end of the month, I would say so. I will say when it comes to your love life, your family, the things that you enjoy, I think the card says it best when it says rejuvenation, where you're using your free time to just de-stress, where you are, maybe connecting more to yourself spiritually, maybe going for some massages, maybe getting your nails done like this card here, getting some facial masks. Like you're just like, I just need to de-stress from all of this. I need to take the time to rejuvenate. I need to take the time to meditate, to just let all the stressors of life roll off of my back. It feels as though you're committing this free time to just rest, to think about the future, to think about more hopeful and positive circumstances, and maybe even just focusing on doing things that make you feel good within your free time, right? That is what this star card is all about. There can even be some social ability this month, like, oh, my family makes me feel good. They make me feel at peace. My friends make me feel good. They make me feel at peace. I feel as though I have this community that is calming, that there's no drama. It feels as though when I'm with them, I can just let it all out. I can breathe this sigh of relief. And I feel like there's a lot of that going on in your free time and the things that you like to do this month. Like you're like, I got to do this heavy. An example of this could be like, I remember particularly, I've gotten, during my free time, there was one particular month I was just going to like massages and getting like professionally stretched for like, I think it might have been a 2-month period that I was doing that. And so that may be something that will align with you, especially with the star card here. It's all about like, ooh, I just need to get these kinks out my shoulder. I need to get in a hot tub. I need to do a cold bath. Is that what they called it? The bath when you put the ice in. But I need to do like a cold bath for those muscle relaxations. I just need to go into a sauna. Like it's like you need to rejuvenate yourself. There's a lot of like self-care, self-healing when it comes to the star card here. And as I already mentioned before, the connection with spirituality, the connection with the occult, the connection with, looking and planning towards the future, and maybe even to some extent, daydreaming. And you may even feel like you want to transform your goals, like make new goals for yourself. So that's a strong possibility. When it comes to love, if you're already in a relationship, expect things to continue to go well. There's probably some spontaneity there, especially since it's next to the Page of Wands. I wouldn't be surprised if there may be a little bit of tiffs going on. The Page of Wands, have to keep in mind, is a little bit immature. And so they can be a little bit of a hothead. And so within the area of love, family, relationships, there can be some tiffs. But overall, because we have the star card for this, it's all good. It's all perfectly fine. You have a solid group who is there to support you, who is there to make you feel good, who will, compliment you, let you know if everything's all right. The thing I love about the star card is that this is a card of carrying the burdens of other people. And so it's almost like your friends and family will carry those burdens with you. They'll allow you to vent and to talk through your feelings or to just let loose. And then sometimes this can be like, oh, I'm scrolling through social media and I'm seeing people going through similar situations as me. And so I feel less alone. And it also makes me feel reinvigorated to get myself out of this situation. So that's something that can be going on. If you are not in a relationship and you're single, I'll be honest, the star card likes to keep people at a distance, right? They're more self-focused. This doesn't mean that you cannot attract anyone, especially with Ashwini there. I get Ashwini people to generally attract a good amount of people because of the youthfulness, the vitality, the energy behind it. They can definitely have some luck when it comes to attracting others and being very charismatic. Things along the lines of that. I haven't seen too many issues of Ashwini people attracting others unless they're, like some sort of incel or something like that. But I don't think that's my audience over here. But for the most part, this is definitely focusing on being at least very physically attracted to attractive to others. But like I said, the star card here might show that you're a little bit more so let's keep people at a distance. If not physically, then at least emotionally, just because you want to focus a little bit more on yourself. Maybe this is even like I want to hit the gym because like I said, Ashwini connects to the physical appearance. And so yes, this may even be like I want to rejuvenate and work on my physical form and make sure that I am catering to that part of myself. Like I just need time to heal. I need time to focus on the things that make me feel good, right? That is what this energy is about. This month can also be a month, like I said, where you want to step out of your shell. Don't know how many opportunities you'll get, but I do feel like there's a sense of fieriness this month that towards the end, you're at least going to be a little bit more opinionated. You're starting to feel a little bit more confident. You're starting to feel a little bit more bold towards the end of this month. And when I see Ashwini here, I noticed that they can be particularly very talented and skilled. And so you might be tapping into your natural talents, your natural skills, your natural abilities, things that make you different from others. I've just noticed that when it comes to this particular placement. I remember when I was doing my Ashwini study, it was kind of interesting to see that there were so many connections to Ashwini and being like superheroes or having superpowers or something along the lines of that. And if we translate that into the world, it's like people who are highly skilled and things along the lines of that. Think like Mariah Carey, who has a very beautiful voice, but most people cannot hit the same notes she can. Or Serena Williams, also highly talented tennis player, things along the lines of that, just being highly skilled. And so this can be some up leveling when it comes to skill and utilizing your natural talents to push you forward and propel you forward. Things that can happen when it comes to Ashwini for themes of this month. There can be months of jealousy from others. I've seen that very highly with Ashwini. There can be some criticisms about physical appearance, generally due to jealousy. There can also be events where you feel a little bit more alone, which I have seen with Ashwini, a lot of connection to isolation and feeling like you connect a little bit more to like animals than people, or you have a smaller group to connect with. But yeah, Ashwini does connect a lot to isolation in a way, just because they're so naturally themselves and very honest, to the point where it's like brutal honesty. You can see with Ashwini natives, I've also seen a connection to intelligence, though Ashwini people don't always get known for their intelligence. They get usually a little bit more known for the physicality or even just their courage. But from what I have seen, Ashwini people are generally very, very intelligent people. You may even find yourself, you know, broadening your mind, broadening your horizons, especially when it comes to, you know, politics, world events, economics, things along the lines of that. Just definitely have seen that connection to Ashwini. There's a podcast I watched. I think it's by two Ashwini natives called Higher Learning. And so there is that. And when it comes to just being informed about the world around you, not being afraid to give your opinion. Like I said, I feel like you're stepping into courage a little bit more later in the month. But overall, I feel as though this is something that is happening for you. Keep in mind. So if you do feel a little bit lonely this month, don't worry. Things will change. Things for transformation. We have the star for love. There is hope. There is beauty. And I'm sorry if, you know, maybe this reading upset you because there's some challenges, but just know this month is bringing you circumstances that are allowing you to grow and step into more alignment with your true self, and also having the courage to actually enact your talents and your creativity out there in the world. So that is what's going to be happening as we move through this month. But hopefully this resonates. You know, if not, feel free to choose a new pile. Don't beat me up. Don't shoot the messenger. Okay. And I hope to see you for the next reading on Thursday. I go live on the weekends. If you want a private reading, just click out the form below, fill it out. I'll get back to you. And that is what I have to say. Au revoir.